All right, we're back. We are COMP397. That's web game programming at Centennial, and it's the fall 2017 semester. And we're week 6, part 1 of our broadcast. We're going to talk about bullets, which is different than what we did with COMP305, the class before you. That with them, I start talking about animations first. With you, I want to get to bullets because I'm not sure if we'll have time to do both. Why? Because I have one less hour with you guys than I do with them, right? So, right, we'll talk about bullets first. Okay, how do we do this? No bullets, no game, right? That's the thing, right? So let's talk about bullets. First of all, what I need a lot is some assets. And I've got some assets that I was using for the other class that I'm going to share with you guys that I've been using. And I'm going to go to that library of assets that I was using, which is under desktop. And I'm going to share some assets that I've kind of created today. So I'm going to go to folders. Did it with Unity projects. Hold on a second. Here's Unity projects. And in my last demo that I did with them, I created some additional sprites. One thing is that I'm basing it off of a sprite that I'm using. So I'm going to go to our little thing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop some stuff. Let's see what I got here. Actually, I will do one of these and pull this over here. There we go. What I want to do is I'm going to drag and drop a couple things. So this is the original bitmap I want to share with you guys for the whole 1945 thing, so you can kind of follow along, right? That's the original bitmap. I also want to drag and drop my bullet that I kind of derived from it. So here's my bullet. So you have what I have, so you guys can follow along, right? And I'm also going to drag and drop my enemy ship, which is this one, and this one. I'm not sure if I can do this all at once, but what the heck. Enemy plane number 1, plane number 2, and number 3. There we go. Okay. So you guys have all that. You can add it to your inventory of assets. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to copy. These are things I just made, and I'll talk about how I made them. So I did these 3 things. I'm going to copy them, copy these 5 items, and I'm going to go into our asset folder, which is here. And inside my assets, inside my images, I'm just going to populate that stuff. So paste. All right. So I got a couple things. I want to talk about this diagram, though. So this is the original diagram that came with the game. Take a look. Right. So this is, again, not mine. Originally, Andy Harris used it in his Python course. And again, I used to teach that course back in 2011. And so it's kind of evolved, right? I took the same assets that I've been using for a while, and I used this mail pilot game as, like I said, my hello world for space shooters or whatever you want to make, right? So notice that on this asset, let me just bring it up into, I'll open it up with Fireworks for a second, so you can see some of the details more. In Fireworks, where I brought this thing to life in the first place, I kind of extracted the bullet. So let's see if I can draw this out. There we go. So first of all, here's the plane that I used. I took this little plane as the enemy, right? And further down here, there's a couple explosions, but this is the bullet that I used. So I kind of used this bullet. It's just a pixel bullet. That's all it is. And what I've done is, this is right off the main sheet there, and I've created a couple of them. One of them is this bullet here. This is what it looks like. It's pretty small. But you can see that I've gone through it. I've made the sides transparent by doing some of my own little pixel manipulation. That was today, right? I made the bullets. I shared them with you so you have them. And now I have an asset. So what I want to do then, next step, like we do when we want to add bullets to our game, is a couple things. One, we need to add the asset into our code. So going back to Visual Studio Code, if I look at, let me just close all these things for now. So close. If I look at the assets folder inside my images folder, and I'm just going to bring these down, way down here. you can see that I have my bullet. Here's my bullet.ping. It's right there. But I need to include this bullet.ping inside of my game objects. I'm going to go to my core files. I'm going to go to my game.ts. And in this long list of stuff, I'm going to add my bullet. Now, you're going to say to me, Tom, holy crap, look at all that stuff. Isn't there a better way to do this? And to prepare you for animations, I'm going to talk about something that I recommend better than this. This is great, but there's a problem. I have a lot of items. And what if I have 10,000 of these items? Just saying, it's massive, right? It could be like a whole screen of like stuff I'm loading, right? And the more items I add in, the longer it'll take to load, right? So wouldn't it be nice if I can preload a sprite sheet? For this, I have a little helper tool that I recommend that you buy. I'm being honest, right? Which is Texture Packer. Now, some people, I think the machines in front of you should have Texture Packer on them. I've asked for it, but they may not. Texture Packer is not a free tool. It is a tool that you can get as a trial. You can use it as a trial version. If I wanted to show you what it looks like, here's Texture Packer. Right? It's made by codeandweb.com. Those are the people that own it. And it's kind of a really nice tool. You can download it again, as a trial. But if I was to buy it, if I go to store, right, and if I want to buy Texture Packer, then you can see that it's about $55. That hasn't changed, by the way. And there's other ones. They're actually for Physics Editor and Sprite Illuminator. Nice things, but those aren't as necessary as Texture Packer. Okay, so I recommend this one, Texture Packer. For $55, we don't have a textbook in this course, right? I know that some people we're all poor students, all of us, right? And we can't afford Texture Packer, but this is a really cool tool if you're going to make any 2D games in the future. Let me show you why. So I've got my Texture Packer. I can decide the framework. Right now, the last one I was using was Unity, which worked fine. But I want to use Create.js, right? So if you look through this, you can see that as you scroll through, there's all these other frameworks. Easel.js, Create.js is there, so I can double click. Here it is. And the great thing is, and I'll show you how this works in a second, I can drag and drop sprites to make it kind of, here, I'll close this up. I can drag and drop sprites to kind of, add to this thing. So I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to go to our demo. Inside of our assets, we have a bunch of images. And let's say, for example, I know I have my cloud, right? There's my cloud. I have my island, right? And I have my plane right now. Here's my plane, just my plane, right? And I also have my start button. And I have my restart button, don't I? Right? Start, restart. So plane, island, cloud, restart. I don't want to include in here at all, include my ocean. Ocean's too big. The graphic is massive. I'll load that on its own, right? But the rest, these three things I want to add in, and the bullet. Here's the bullet. Right, so those are all the graphics. And notice how it packs them. Texture Packer. It creates a sprite sheet. This is something called power of 2, right? Power of 2 packing, right? So if I go into advanced settings, you can see that it's going to use something called power of 2. We got here trim mode. Oh, this is good. So size constraints, I want to use power of 2, right? And if I use power of 2, the reason for this, by the way, if you notice the size of the file is 512K, right? But what it'll do is it'll pack this thing in a certain format. If I say any, if I go back to any size, it'll try and make it as small as possible. So try and pack it, as small as it can be, right, kind of thing. You can also pack it in terms of word aligned. So I can say, for example, bullet, cloud, island. It'll try and do this thing, pack it as tight as it can in a little TextureAtlas, right? For computers, it likes power of 2, right? In fact, you can make it whatever you like. But if you're using SFML, C++, if you're using Unity or Unreal, you want to change the packing formula, the way it packs a sprite. So it's some kind of power of 2, like example 256, 512, 1024, 2048, and so on, that kind of thing. I'm going to stick with power of 2, even though it's slightly bigger, like it's, let's say, a bit more room, because a couple reasons. One, I know that I'm going to add more stuff to this. I know it, right? So I'm going to give myself more room, number one. And two, it's more compatible if I ever want to bring this game into another framework, right? So we use power of 2. So there's 2 files. One is a JSON file, right, that I'm going to use. And another one is the actual texture file, which is the name of the texture of my atlas. Now I'm going to call this the TextureAtlas. That's what I'm going to call it, TextureAtlas.ping and TextureAtlas.json. Those are the 2 files I'm going to make. So I'm going to kind of go here, and I'm going to go to, let's go to the desktop, this one, to assets, to images, right? And I'm going to put it in here. Now, you may also be tempted, and I found success in making another folder altogether called Sprite Sheets. Sprite Sheets. Why? Because my Sprite Sheets separate. Because it becomes really long. It's like a massive long list of stuff, and then Sprite Sheets is very small, right? It's like one thing that holds all my images together. So let's do that instead this time around. So I'll say Sprite Sheets. So it's a new folder, and that's where it's going to go. That's a JSON file. I'm going to save this as TextureAtlas, right? TextureAtlas.json, save. And the same thing goes with my ping. So my ping file is going to have the same location, right? I want to make sure it goes in the right place. That's why I'm moving it. So I'm going to go to desktop, here, assets, Sprite Sheets. And then it's going to be called TextureAtlas again, TextureAtlas, right? And then .ping, save. So those 2 things I've got is nice locations. I've got this packing formula and publish. Done. What did I get? Right? So the one thing is, hey, I got this nice idea. Thank you very much, Tom. By the way, I didn't include everything in here. I will include my enemy later, but I wanted to show you how you update stuff. So here's my Sprite Sheets. Inside there, I have two objects. If I double click on my TextureAtlas, you can see what I get. I get the exact same thing that I had before with a bunch of space for now. Don't worry, I'm going to use it all, right? It's empty for now, but it's power of 2, makes it a lot easier for loading, right? And okay, for now. So that's this thing. Okay, so I have my images. Now, the great thing, and this is why I love Texture Packer, because otherwise you have to do everything by hand, especially when you add new things, okay, is the other thing you get with Texture Packer, which is this, the JSON file. Let's take a look at what this looks like. I'm going to bring it into another program just so we can kind of compare. I'm going to bring it into Text Wrangler. Or you can bring it into whatever text editor you want. But notice what I get. I get this. I get images. I can't make this bigger, unfortunately. You get some frames, animations. You've got Texture Packer information on the bottom. And that's what I get, right? So why the heck is this better? Okay. Well, I'm ready to convert my bitmaps that I have right now to sprites. I'm going to start doing sprite animations soon, and today's the day. I need to convert my stuff from bitmaps to sprites. Why? Let's take a look at what I can do with sprites. Sprites I can animate. Bitmaps, a little bit more challenging to do. If I go into my class, my easel.js docs, right? And if I look at the sprite class now, okay, here's my sprite class. Okay, here's my sprite. And what I can do is I can create a new sprite instance. And what I can do is I can play an animation based on a set of frames that I can define. So for example, let's say my animation is frame 0, 1, and 2. I can play an animation called run, and it'll just do three running frames, of animation. And we're talking about frame-based animations where I swap the images from one, okay? So sprites have a really cool way of doing things. And I want to set you guys up to use sprites, right? And this is part of what we're doing with bullets. Before I do bullets, I'm going to talk about sprites. And actually, we should have called this sprites and bullets. But anyways, that's this, okay? But in order for me to use sprites, I need to use a sprite sheet. Here's my sprite sheet class. And the sprite sheet class, it uses this path, you know, as an example, right? And here are the frames for the sprite sheet. But what I want to do, you notice that animations are walk, frames, shooting frames, different kinds of frames, right? And I want to, here's an example of my sprite sheet. I need to create a sprite sheet first, right? And my sprite sheet's going to hold all my data. Here's my data. And what I do is I pass my data into the sprite sheet. And then all I have to do for my sprite is make a reference to my sprite sheet and the name of the sprite that's on my sprite sheet. Why is this good? This is good because it replaces the way I've been doing things so far with my preloader. I'm not saying I can't preload my sprite sheet. I can, right? Or I'm not even saying that I shouldn't. I should, right? But for now, I'm going to just move it away from the sprite preloader and remove those things from the preload list and make it into a sprite sheet, okay? Just for now. Performance difference is going to be minimal. Now I have the format, right? Here's my images, TextureAtlas.ping, because this should be something like, you know, it shouldn't be TextureAtlas.ping. It should be something else. And this is not going to be called images. This is going to be data, right? Just like my example. Look at my example. Data, and then some curly braces, and here's my images, right? Here's my images, and la 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 la. So this is what I want. This is the format that I want. So to prepare myself, I'm going to go back into my VBS code. And notice here's my asset manifest. But I want my TextureAtlas. I want to create a new object called TextureAtlas. I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to say we're going to do some reworking of code today. Let TextureAtlas, right, equal to some kind of object that I'm going to get. Well, guess what? I have it right here, right? To see this also, by the way, because I've exported it inside of my code, right? If I go to my assets, sprite sheets, and go to my JSON file, it's here, right? So I don't have to really go too far, right? And I want to create this stuff as an object file. So I'm going to take all this, not including this stuff, just up to here, copy it. I'm going to go back into my game.ts, and right next to here, I'm going to paste it. Boop. Right? So TextureAtlas now is a class, right? It has the following: images, frames, animations, cloud, and some frames, and bullet, and some more frames, and some other stuff. All right, so these are the frames. Notice what it does is it kind of creates these curly braces, and the curly braces indicate what the frames are for each thing. All right, now I've got some issues because I'm doing this. Let's be something, but I need one more curly brace. That's the issue, right? There we go. That closes off that. Notice the information. I got each of the frames. This is frame 0. This is frame 1. This is frame 2, and so on. These are all the ones. They're all in order: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And notice the cloud is frame 0, right? So this is the coordinates: 1, 1. The width is 226, and the height is 178. How do I know that? I go back to Texture Packer. You can see that it's kind of the top left corner. So 1, 1. And if I look at the actual object itself, you can see that it hugs the top left corner. So that's where 1, 1 is, right? And, you know, it gives me the impression that this is where this object is going to land. Now, if I really want to look at this, I can inspect it inside of Fireworks. But you can see that the size, if I hover over, is 226 by 178. That's a good indicator that I'm looking at the right object. Okay, so that's this. 1, 1, 226, 178, and some other data. Okay? This is the pivot, exact center. Okay. Okay, same thing goes with the other stuff. I've got, frame 2, which is my bullet. It starts off at 229.1. The size of my bullet is 9 by 9. It's a square bullet, right? And so on. And so the rest goes. And so you see that each of the objects has its own animations, is what we call them. But they're just names of the sprites. The sprites right now have no animations because each of them have one frame. Actually, it's a one frame animation is what it is, right? So again, I'm setting you up for animations later on. If you want to do this, right, where I flip between frames, okay, right now. So I want to use this situation. Okay, now the only problem that I have is textures.ping, TextureAtlas.ping doesn't make any sense because guess what? If you look really carefully, it's ... and then assets and then something else, right? So I want to keep this. I want to put this over here, right? There's the images. And I want to put in sprite sheets, right? So sprite sheets. Okay, that's where it is. That's the TextureAtlas. I need to be exact with this one. So that's the only changes I have to really make so far. All right, next. So I got that part done. So that I've loaded in my data. Now you might say, hold on a second, Tom. We're hard coding it right here. Yep, for now. Remember, we're optimizing later. Right, we're just making it work. Right, later on, we'll go through it and we'll make a loader. So it loads up this stuff dynamically, so I don't have to go through it. I don't have to look at this anymore. It'll be some kind of JSON loader, like an AJAX loader or something like that, that reads the file. Right, and I can make the loader work with the preloader and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Next, so now that I have my TextureAtlas, that's very nice. But remember what I'm looking at from, if I go back to my documentation. So I got this part. This is all done. Now I need to define a sprite sheet. This is the actual TextureAtlas itself. So this is the TextureAtlas data. So really what I should call this is not TextureAtlas, but TextureAtlas data. That's what it really is. Okay. Now I need the sprite sheet itself, and it's going to be of type sprite sheet. Again, could I not make this my own? Could I not make this its own class and derive it using create.js? For now, I'm going to keep it the same, and I want to instantiate it. So here I'm going to create an object. So here's my TextureAtlas, my definitions of my TextureAtlas. And just like I did up here with my current scenes and all that stuff, just below this, I'm going to say let TextureAtlas itself, the actual TextureAtlas itself, be of type create.js.spritesheet. Not container, sprite sheet. And so I'm defining what it is. Make sense? So I've got my sprite sheet. Now in here is where I'm going to do my work. I'm not going to do it in here for now. Remember I talked about this. I'm going to do this later. I'm going to optimize in my initialization. But I want to wait till my regular stuff loads. And then what I want to do is I want to pass in a reference to this object later. Okay, now here's the animation. So once I instantiate this object, when I do, I can use sprites based on this object, but I have to pass in a reference to the sprite sheet. That's different. That's different than I did before. My game objects right now, they're bitmaps. They're not sprites. So we have to change all the game objects in a second too. Or the main game object we'll have to change. Okay. So inside my canvas, I've got my, I set up my canvas, I set up my stage, I enable the mouse, I do the ticker, and somewhere in here, or in here, it doesn't really matter where, right? I can do it either way, either place, one or the other. For me, I've got my asset manager, I load my manifest. You know what, this is a great place to do my sprite sheet too. Might as well do it up here. At the same time, it's my atlas. Later on, I use my asset manager to load my atlas. Right now, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to say TextureAtlas, right, is equal to a new create.js dot. I'm just making it like this. And I'm going to pass in a reference to my texture data, right, which is my TextureAtlas data. Okay? So I'm passing it in. I'm creating my Sprite sheet data, and I'm passing it in. Okay, great. Now that I have that, I have a container for all my data. Now, if I want you to think about what I could do here instead, okay, I'm just going to point this out to you. Remember that I'm trying to load my TextureAtlas data, and I'm using this as images, right? But this images is inside of my my global namespace for this area here, right? So all I got to pass in is some kind of texture image, almost like get result. I want to do like my get result, the same thing when I do my get result, and I want to pass in the image to my texture data, and I want to do this somewhere else. But in the past, I found this caused some minor issues. I'm doing it right now. We're going to handle this later. For now, I'm going to stop preloading some stuff. I'm going to stop preloading my plane, my island, my cloud. I'm not going to touch these anymore. My engine sound, all my sounds I'm going to keep. My ocean, I'm going to preload. But my plane, my island, and my cloud, I'm going to kill. I'm not going to do it from here anymore. Okay, so I'm making some. Oh, and so too my restart and my start button. So I know I think if I'm not wrong, I put my restart and start button in there too. Right? So those are gone. Bear with me. I know it looks like a major change, but really it's not. All right, so I've got my TextureAtlas, blah blah blah. Right? Okay. My start button and my restart button, they used to be something else, but now they're sprites. So let's start with those. Let's fix those things first. Here's my front screen. So how do I fix that? Well, I know that if I go to my scripts and I go to my objects, I can see that my button itself is derived from CreateJS bitmap, a game object. So now all we have to do is change this to CreateJS.Sprite. However, when I do this change, when I do this change over, right? Notice that my superclass is not really being satisfied, right? In fact, my button for my constructor for my button has to be changed a little bit because I need my asset manager. Sure, I used to have my asset manager in here, but I don't need my asset manager anymore, right? It's not going to get result of my name anymore. This is going to change my button. So this is the change that you're going to expect for the other ones. What I'm actually doing here with my asset manager is I'm going to change this to my Sprite sheet, right? Which I'm going to call TextureAtlas. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go TextureAtlas, which is going to be of type CreateJS.SpriteSheet. That's the first thing. And I'm going to pass in a reference to my Sprite sheet here. So Sprite sheet, TextureAtlas. And then I'm going to pass in the Sprite name, the name of the Sprite, which is just the image name. That is the only two changes I have to make for my buttons. Now, also when I call my buttons, right, when I make my buttons come alive, right, because I've changed this thing, I also have to go into the scenes that I use my buttons, and I have two scenes that I use my buttons right now. The first scene, so start scene, and the end scene. So let's go to my first scene first and see if that works before I change all the other stuff, okay? So bear with me while we do this. So here's my start scene. And notice that I have a problem because I'm not passing in a reference to the asset manager anymore, right? I'm going to pass a reference to the TextureAtlas. Uh-oh. Well, we never pass the TextureAtlas through. Remember I talked about making an objects, using objects instead of other things? We're going to get there. But for now, I need to pass in one more thing into my all my scenes. So because of that, I have to go and change my scene class too. So I'm going to go into my objects. I'm going to go to my scene. We have to do this anyway at some point, so might as well do it now. So here's my scene superclass. This is it's really an abstract class. That's what it is. It doesn't really require any, the constructor itself is an empty constructor. But when I look at my scenes themselves, so my start scene as an example, it needs this and then calls a superclass, right? So I have my asset manager, and I want to pass in my TextureAtlas as well. I'm going to pass this as second. Asset manager first, TextureAtlas second, because eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to get rid of my TextureAtlas, and I'm going to load it with my asset manager. For now, let's use one. Let's use the second one. So I'm just going to be using one method. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to call this TextureAtlas. It's going to be of type create.js. Let's get rid of this so you can see it more. Create.js.spritesheet. Okay. So that is what's going to happen. It's going to take in this create.js.spritesheet in my start scene. Now that I have a reference to it, I need to create a local reference to this thing. So I'm going to make another change. I'm going to say private underscore TextureAtlas, which is of type create.js.spritesheet. We're going to fix this later. Please forgive me. And then down in here, I'm going to just assign it. TextureAtlas is equal to TextureAtlas. Okay, so it's done. So this is going to be passed into here. All right, now that we have that, we can use it. So instead of the asset manager being in here, I don't need that. I need a TextureAtlas. And I'm going to still keep this. I'm not changing it. It's the only thing I changed for my button reference. All right. Okay, but because I changed my scene, my start scene, so it needs a TextureAtlas, I need to change that inside my game.ts file, right? My game.ts file is going to have where I start my game. Bottom, I have an issue because now in my first scene, it needs not just the asset manager, but also a reference to my TextureAtlas, which I'm going to pass in. All I'm doing is I'm passing this. I like to call this passing the baton. I'm kind of passing a reference from one scene to the one class to the other class. There's for now, right? Do we have to do this later on? No, we can create classes and objects that kind of are something that we can share. Similar to what we did with the config class, right? Because really, if you think about it, right, my sprite sheet is going to be constant, right? So it can be almost like a static class that I make, a static object that I create, that I carry along, that I can use all over and over again. Same too for my my other object, right? Which is my asset manager. But that's a lot of changes. Once I make it static, other funny things happen. So that's why I'm saying we're going to optimize that later. Okay. But for now, this is the thing, and this is how it's going to be. And if you notice, this is the way I'd want it to work. But let's check and see if the first one works. I was trying to check one scene, see if my start menu scene works. And if it does, and if I see my button, good to go. That means everything is working as it should be. But if I don't see my button, and we got errors, that's a problem. All right, so let's see if this works. So I'm going to save everything. It looks like I made 16 changes, but really it's like half that, 8 changes, 8 files I've changed. But let's go now and see what happened on my files. So going back to here, I'm going to just type like-server and see if this brings up any kind of thing. Okay, so some weird stuff happened. What happened, right? Well, it worked, first of all, right? Because if I didn't work, I wouldn't see this button. But it's offset. It's offset because some of the stuff that I passed in from my texture packer. Let me explain. My texture packer has different ways of being configured, right? And one of the things it did right now, not only did it do power of 2, right? But it also passed in a bunch of other things. My common divisor, and if I go back to basic settings, it just says this, right? And my trim mode is a trim, right? If I trim none, right, there's nothing around it. It trims, it packs everything really, really tight. I don't mind doing that. But I want to go back to this settings thing for a second, this advanced settings for a second. Because this advanced settings actually does texture format, ping 32. I don't want to change that. That's right. Okay. My ping opt level is 1. That's okay. Pixel format, I'm leaving that alone, RGBA. Scaling variance is one thing. Power of 2, the size of my screen. That's that one. Algorithm, max rex, okay? Max rex or basic. If I click the basic, now things switch around a little bit. Best. Sort by name. Sort by name. Bullet, cloud, island, plane, restart button, and so on. It's all by name. I like that more, even though it's not the most optimum way of sorting. Ascending order. Ascending. Okay, here's my trim mode. My trim mode is 1 margin and 1 alpha threshold. I want to say none, right? None trim. No, don't trim it at all. Okay. Common divisor, border padding, all this kind of stuff. Let's re-export my sprites. I'm going to kind of click my sprite sheet again. Okay, cool. What did I get? So let's go back to my screen again. Let's go back to my Visual Studio Code. All right, so this changed, right? I'm going to go back up to my assets. This is a great thing about Texture Packer, right? Let's see what I got now. I got this, and I got all this information, right? 1199, it's a little differently. And I got 0, 4.5, this information. But I really don't care about this. This is what's causing me a headache right here. I only care about this first piece of information, this stuff. I don't care about this stuff at all. Why is that? Because what it's doing is it's doing the following. It's calculating what my center of mass is, right? It's saying, hey, your center is at, notice the zeros are all in the middle. I got my references, my center point is 4.5 and 4.5, right? And whereas my cloud is 113 and 89. That's the middle width, if you will, mid width or mid height. That's what these things are, right? I've just packed them in a different way. That's all I'm doing, okay? How about when I click multi-pack? What does that do? It says texture file name must contain one of the following tags if you want to do that. Replace by sprite sheet, blah, blah, blah. And I definitely don't want to do that. Okay, here's my trim mode. Here's my pack with the same layout, right? Pack with the same layout. I can auto detect. I don't want to do those things. Everything is normal. If I want to go any size, that'll cut my screen down a little bit, so make my size bigger, my size smaller, but it's not going to change this. Notice that my sprite sheet itself didn't change its positions. Okay, let's save this, right? Because what I want to do is take these frames. So nothing has changed in my file. This is just in my JSON file. Remember, I'm not reading this yet. So what I need to do is take all this information here and plant it back in there. So I'm going to go up to here, let's say, here. I'm going to copy it, go back to my game.ts file, and where I have my information, which is right here, and I got to replace this as well, right? Maybe I'll just put it here and I'll copy paste. I'll do something funny like this. Okay, I'll say come over here and I'll copy paste all this because that's changed, right? All this stuff from here down, oops, up to there has changed, right? Don't worry about that. That's just the error because I brought it in twice, and I just wanted to do that so I can copy this and I don't have to type it again because I'm lazy. For good reason, by the way. Also, finger typing errors. If I have to type this every single time, I'll go nuts, right? So all this can go now. Right? I had to change it because it reordered everything by name. Take a look. It went da-da-da, and I need my final closing brace, which is here with a semicolon, and that should do everything. So now my animations are in order of name. Bullet, cloud, island, plane, restart button, start button, right? Easier for me to identify with. Now, this part is still a problem, right? Because I see that there's some, this is the origin, but this zero, this changed from something else to zero, which is, hopefully this is what I want. All right, so I saved everything, and let's go back to my screen and see what I got. Okay, so if I refresh, still got the same problem. It's still offset. Because what it's doing is it's saying, hey, when you load your sprite, your origin is 4.5 and 4.5. Okay, back to Texture Packer. Is there a way my the middle of my objects, is there some place in here? I'm showing you how to use Texture Packer too, right? Is there some place where it says that my origin is going to be the center? And what do I mean by that? I mean, like if I click on a sprite like this, right? And if I hover over, you can see that the position is 0, 180. It's rotated as no. That's what that 0 is. It's no. My origin size is 62 by 63. That's the size of my sprite. But what I want to do is notice that I can pack by different ways, best and so on, and my order is ascending or descending. My basic algorithms are these kind of things. My scaling variance, 1, my maximum texture size. All these things are other options that I have, right? But what I really want is I don't want any information based on the the middle point of my sprite. And unfortunately, what they've done, but if I'm not wrong, is, let me just see if, I think what they've done is they've made it so that my middle point is already predefined. So I'm not going to change anything here, which is kind of, I liked it more before when they didn't have this. Display outlines. Let me see if I can display outlines for you. You can see that these are the outlines. And you can see these are 2 quads. That's what they're doing here when they drew it out, right? But what I really was hoping to see was that there was no, so it would be 0, 0. So how do I fix this? An easy way is just to put zeros in here, right? So 0, 0, 0, but it's a lot of typing. So I'm just going to type the first one, and I just want these last pieces to be like this, 0, 0, 0, comma. Again, I'll tell you why in a second, because they zero things out for me. Now, this might also help me if you think about it. Remember, I've been doing my registration values, regx and reg-y, and I've made them to the middle. This does it automatically for me. But I want more control than that. I don't want it to be already centered. I want to center it myself. So again, there's different options. You can decide to do it or not. I'm not going to. I want more control. So I'm just going to zero these last points out. 0, 0. And you can see this one has even more. So 1, 2, 3. And this is 0, 0, 0. And now you see that there's extras. It's like there's actually, well, actually, no, it's not. It's just bigger. That's how it should look. And if I go back and if I go to my scene now, it should be in the middle. They're just trying to center it for me by choosing the registration values. This is great. That means my objects now, my button, although I don't need it to, my button and my my plane and my island and my ocean are all sprites. Okay? And so is my bullet, by the way. Okay, cool. So this is great. I've done this. I've adjusted my frames, right? My frame sizes and my everything else. Okay, I've done my first part, again, which is, I'm just going to move this down again, which is, I've taken care of my object, my first object, which is my button, but I need to adjust the other ones. I need to adjust my plane. I know that my plane itself, if I look at my plane, is also a bitmap. I haven't inherited my plane from my game object because I didn't want to for now. So for now, I'm just going to make this a createjs.sprite, which means that I need to pass in my plane instead of my asset manager something else, which is my TextureAtlas. Sprite sheet, right? And now instead of doing this with plane, I'm going to keep plane, but I want to pass in my TextureAtlas reference and my plane. That's it. Change, a couple line changes that I have to make, and my plane is ready to go. My plane is done. No differences to my plane. Okay. I do the same thing for my ocean. Doesn't change because it's still a bitmap. I'm not changing that. My scene's already got its changes. My island and my cloud have to change. However, they inherit from game object, and game object inherits from createjs bitmap. And I'm going to make this inherit from Sprites. So this is where the big changes come in. So Sprites, again, I get my asset manager, which is my load queue. I don't want that now. Atlas, TextureAtlas, which is of type create.js sprite sheet. And now I pass in a reference to my TextureAtlas and the name of my sprite sheet. So it'll be like this. TextureAtlas. And the name of the sprite sheet, which is this. Okay, so that's, or my sprite itself. So that's my sprite. All right, so I pass in my TextureAtlas every single time I use it. Okay, cool. So that's my game object superclass. I've changed it. That means all the other classes now are sprites. However, I need to change the two that use it. Here's my island, right? And now instead of taking in my asset manager, my island doesn't take an asset manager anymore. It takes in a, so I got to change this over here too. I'm passing it along, right? And you're going to say, Tom, why didn't you do this before? Guys, can't. I couldn't do all this before. This is too much. If you never saw Asset Manager, how would you know the difference between that and TextureAtlas, right? Oh, by the way, I don't need that. All I need is, I don't have to pass in my TextureAtlas anymore, do I? Elements, TextureAtlas is create.js sprites sheet, sprite sheet. I pass in my TextureAtlas, so I pass it through my TextureAtlas in my island. It goes through. Okay, those two have to change. And I got to change my cloud too. So again, the same thing. No asset manager right now. It's going to be TextureAtlas, which is going to be a type create.js.sprite sheet. And my asset manager is going to change to TextureAtlas. TextureAtlas cloud. Okay, so that's changed. Now I got to change my scene because that's where it's being used here. I've got to make some change to my scene.
So every game object used to be like
Not now. Some of them are going to have sprites. Yeah, some of them are going to be sprites because so my player is still a bitmap because I'm not doing anything with my player. That I don't want to convert it yet. Because wait, yes, eventually, I could. And now look at here's the things where instead of passing in my play scene, I want to pass in TextureAtlas, but I don't have access to it because my play scene never passed it through. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to say TextureAtlas. TextureAtlas, which is of type create.js sprite sheet, right? That's what that's going to be. And then, of course, I've got to have a container for this TextureAtlas, which is going to be up here. It's underscore TextureAtlas, which is going to be of create.js type. And assign it. This is just the same work I did on the first scene, so you know that it works. So TextureAtlas is equal to TextureAtlas. Done. And that means down here I can use it. I can pass that in. Not from my ocean. My ocean is a bitmap, so I still need my asset manager. Island. Now my plane. Did I mess up? Island and cloud. Yeah, I probably messed up. But let's just go back here and I'll go back to my sprite. I may have made my plane a sprite. Not part of my game object, but a sprite. All right, so this is going to be the same. This doesn't change. My plane needs this dot underscore TextureAtlas, and so does this, and so does my cloud. In a second. Okay, that's fixing that. And one more error down here. Again, I'm just changing this to TextureAtlas, so that way, you know, we have the TextureAtlas being used throughout. Okay, so that's the major change there, which is my end scene. right? So my end scene itself is very similar. Oh, and my game.ts scene also, because that has to change. So now we have the same problem. So in my constructor, I don't want to just take this, but I also want to take in the TextureAtlas object, TextureAtlas, because I know I'm going to need it, create.js.sprites, right? And I need to set up another container for this, private, is of type create.js.sprites, sprite sheet, okay, sprite sheets. And then I can just make it related, this dot underscore TextureAtlas is equal to TextureAtlas. So I need those two things. And then, of course, this has to change because my restart button, it doesn't need my asset manager anymore. It needs my TextureAtlas. TextureAtlas. Right? That's the same stuff. But my Ocean does need my asset manager. That's why I'm passing, because Ocean uses something different, right? So I'm just making it a little bit more complex. That's all. So far, so good. Just want to make one check because I'm not sure if I did something right or wrong. Sprite sheet. Yeah, that's good. And here's my game.ts. Back to my game.ts. Down the bottom now I have two problems, the same as this, which is I'm just going to take this part here and just copy paste on top of this just to fix those two problems, because now all my scenes require TextureAtlas in my current state, which again, all those three things are going to disappear in a future version, right? Because my current state should be static. TextureAtlas should be static, and my asset manager should be static. So I can set up these three static objects that are sitting around that I can share between all the other ones, right? For now, though, one step at a time. Not too many changes at once, right? I just want my stuff to work. So a bit of optimization today. I didn't really want to go too much into detail, and that's why I stopped here. I want to save everything, so I'm going to make sure I save all, just to make sure there's no other changes. I got 34 changes now, so 16 files are changed approximately. One third of that, 10 files or something like that. Anyways, because I also create maps too, right? And let's go back to this. I'm going to control. Actually, I want to see what it looks like. So MailPilot looks like it works. This is good. My Ocean is still scrolling. I can see that we're still connected. Let's start playing. Clouds are working. Yay. Collisions still work. Yay. My plane still works. Yay. And my game over still works. All that's been changed. All the swaps have been done. So that's the first step, swapping everything for sprites. Whew, that took me a bit of time. I'm sorry, but this is the process, my friends. Right? Okay, so let's stop this this thing. It's a good place to stop. Clear the screen. Git add dot. Git commit -m, and I'll say yes. The JavaScript or the TypeScript, you mean? No, the TypeScript. Well, because you're gonna transpile, right? Yeah, you're right. But in a case where you and I are working together, I'm working on a file, then yes, I would make a git ignore file to ignore all the stuff that you're going to generate anyway, right? But in the case of everyone in here, to make it easier, right? I'm just gonna drag, copy paste. Even if they forget to transpile, it's working. Right? So they never have to use the project. They just can make it work. Later on, we're going to create a bundle, all of our files, all of our JavaScript files, and put them together into one file and compress it too, so that it's just one small JavaScript file, right? As opposed to all of these monster files all over the place, right? But it's one little file to make our whole game go, and compressed, by the way, too, really, really compressed, because that'll make it even faster, more performant, because it's going to load really quick, right? But yeah, to your question, I think it's a good idea for your peeps, the people you're working with right now. If you decided to put a git ignore for all the JS files, but it wouldn't run, you'd have to transpile and build in order for your stuff to run when someone else picks it up. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that. I don't need to see your JavaScript files. When I download your stuff, I'm going to transpile and run anyway. right? So, all right, so we said we added TextureAtlas. That kind of says it all. TextureAtlas, right? Support. Okay, these are all the files that we've changed. Git push origin master. So now you have all my changes up on GitHub. We're not talking about big changes. We're talking about my whole project right now. Everything together, you know, is 220K. Like that's all the stuff. That's everything, right? I believe. Well, that's my deltas anyway. 220K is my deltas. I think the pro project might be a little bit bigger. But to check the size of my project files, just to just to tell you, I know people are concerned at times, but if I right click and I go get info, you can see that my whole project's about 10 meg. That's including everything, files, transpilation, everything, 10 megs for everything, which is still quite small, right? Because it includes everything, images, you know. Okay, so let's get back in here because I want to kind of talk about the rest of the stuff today, right? So do a bit. So that we added this in, we still have our audio and our stuff being handled by the preloader. My TextureAtlas data is handling all this. We're going to have to do this a couple times because every time we add a new object, we're going to have to modify our atlas again, right? But we're still pretty cool. Texture Packer is a great way of doing that. Highly recommend using some kind of sprite sheet. Get this preloaded. We're going to look at that as a future feature. You know, more like a bug fix than anything else. But otherwise, we're pretty good to go. Okay, I already have my bullet. I prepared us for having our bullet. Now we got a user bullet. So I'm going to create a bullet class. It's going to be of type game object. I want it to have everything that every other game object has so far. It needs width, half height. It needs to be able to all the same stuff in order for me to be able to calculate collisions with it later on. Right? So going back here, I'm going to go back into my objects and I'm going to right click and get a new file. And we're going to call this bullet.ts. Right, cool. So there's my bullet class. I'm going to need a new module, right, which is of type objects. Now, smart thing to do, thing that's like the bullet. It moves, but it moves up. It doesn't have a random position, but I'm pretty cool. You know what? Island.ts might be very close to what I need. So I'm going to Control C, right? Go back to my bullet class, Control A, Control V, and then change this from island to bullet. Okay, my TextureAtlas is going to be bullet. All changed, right? Nice and easy, because all the stuff is set up for me. My reset position. This is different because my bullet won't exactly reset, right? I want to, for now, instantiate a new bullet, kind of, right? I'm going to set up a new bullet. And we have some issues that are different than I did with other stuff. Okay, question for you guys. I want you to think about this. So I want you to help me out. Let's envision this together. And so for guys like Matt and some of the guys who are very guys who've done this before, good. Think about what my stage is. My stage is a container. It's a display list. Whenever I do add child, what I'm really doing is I'm adding an object to the display list somehow, right? So it's like an array. If it's an array, what I want to do is I want to insert my bullet, right, above my plane, right, but below my clouds. So that's going to be messed up. Because if I make a bullet appear, right now, because of the way we deal with layering, right, where the last object I add is the bullet, right, just putting it out there, that bullet's going to be on top of everything. It's going to be on top of the clouds. It's going to be on top of the user interface. It's going to fly on top of everything right now. And that's a problem, right? For now. I'm just putting it out there to you because I know what's going to happen. I've done this before, right? Let's not deal with it right this moment. And later on, we're going to figure out another little algorithm, a change to the bullet, where we can fix it so it goes under the clouds. Every time, every bullet goes under the clouds, right? But if the clouds, you're going to say to me, if the clouds are already instantiated, what can we do? Well, here's thoughts for the direction we're going to go in. If I look at easel.js documentation, actually it's already open. If I go to easel.js documentation, and if I look at some of the stuff that's on the left-hand side, we know that I'm using a display container, a container object. Here's my container. This is where everything fits, right? And it's going to be layered in this container. Because a container is a nestable display list that allows you to work with compound display elements. For example, you could group arm, leg, torso, and head bitmap instances together in a person container. Okay. Right? So I'm just going to put in some options for you guys, okay? Could I not have a player container? My player container gets added to the display list of my game container. My game container gets added to the display list of my, I'm just putting it out there, right? Of my other containers. Now, all my game, when I add my game container in play, right? My game container contains my plane, right? A little bit more complex, but I'm giving you the direction. See if you can think of this through, right? And if I add my bullets and remove my bullets from my player container, they're on the same level because they all get added to the display list at the same point. They're an array of arrays. That's what they are. They are the clouds asked after the player. So if I add my container and my player container contains my bullets at the same level, right? My clouds get added off on top of everything, then the bullets should theoretically be on the same level. Yes.
In this situation, the X and Y will be local or global?
Local. So my player container will be local. My bullets will be local to my player. So my player, remember, my bullets are going to be, almost think about it this way. My player is going to almost have its own coordinate space. So when I add when I move my player around, my player, I got to be very careful. I got to make my player move in its local coordinate space and my bullets move in their local coordinate space. And so when I do collisions, if I do collisions between my player from a local coordinate space to the global coordinate space of the clouds, yeah, you see you're shaking your head already. You're like, way too many changes, right? I'm just giving you an option. That's one option, okay? Remember, it's just layering, right? How we can do the layers. The other option is we have to think about the container itself. All right, we have to think about the container itself. So remember that we can do add child and add child at.
Why don't we have another container for this purpose?
We could do that too. Yeah, we can do that too. But then take the bullets, and then you're gonna have to get the local coordinate space of the bullets and compare it to the global coordinate space of the different local coordinate space of the other objects you're hitting.
There's a local to local function.
Yes, I know. But I'm saying those are the things you need to do. Local to local, there's local to global, and that's now you're dealing with coordinate spaces. These are all valid options that we're talking about. I'm just talking about options with you now, trying to make it the simplest possible way, right? But look at this. You also have add child at. Add child at gives me the child and the index that I'm adding it in. Add your child to the display list at a specified index, bumping the children at equal or greater indexes up one and sending its parent to this container. And I think that's the best. So instead of adding child randomly, we add child at 3. Or initially, we don't set our children, our clouds, right? We add our clouds, right? 3 clouds. But we add our child at the first clouds level. So it's going to bump all the clouds up by 1, right?
How will you ensure there's always a cloud before you have that?
It won't. So if you don't have a child, it doesn't matter. But the clouds aren't going to, they never come, we never take them away and bring them back. Never take them away and bring them back. Here's the other option. I instantiate all of my bullets ahead of time. All of them, right? And they have positions from, let's say, 3, I don't know, maybe let's make, 20 bullets, right? From 4 to 24 is all bullets. We do it ahead of time before we make even clouds come into play. We instantiate all our bullets first, our bullet list, right? And this way, they're all in place way before my clouds come in. And all I'm doing is recycling my bullets. I'm not instantiating bullets for this issue. So when I add my bullets in, I add them all in at once. but they're not actually in my scene. I only call them into my scene when I need them. They live somewhere else. They live at minus 10,000, right? Or whatever it is, minus 10,000, somewhere off the screen somewhere, right? And I bring them into play when I need them. And when I reset them, I put them back over there. When they leave the screen, they go back to that little space, wait, 10,000, negative 10,000 somewhere. And when I need them again, they go back to my plane, wherever it is, my spawn point. What if it's a complex object? What if? Like there's lots of other things. There's a lot of other what ifs, right? So I'm saying, so we have to think about the easiest way, and add child at. Add child at will add the bullets below the clouds every time. But I put my finger in my mouth here for a second, right? But what effect will that have on the rendering mid-stride? So I'm rendering everything every frame. Does it move it up the same frame? Does it move it up the next frame? Will I have a flicker when I fire my guns? Like what's going to happen? Like that's the challenge, right? Because remember, I'm doing this all at the same time. I'm pressing the button and then making my bullets go over the place. It's a challenge. So I'm just discussing with you guys to understand that this is not as easy as you think it is. Well, the bullets, when they leave the screen, would be destroyed, right? I can remove them. Remove child at, or remove child between this point and this point, right? Or, like I said, make it invisible, right? Or keep track of it in a display list. I have a big bullet pool. The bullet pool is a list of bullets, and as soon as it leaves the pool, I pop the bullet off the pool. I remove that bullet from the scene, whatever that bullet is, the reference to the bullet, which is what I'm going to do right now. And then when I remove child, it removes it completely, gone. No more bullet.
How about like you find it when it comes up?
How about what?
You find it when then you can
There's tons and tons of ways to do this, right? I'm just going to give you one way. I'm showing you there's issues. I'm talking about the issues ahead of time so you know. Okay? Let's get to it. So we know we have a bullet, right? We know we're instantiating the bullet. And the bullet must instantiate. When the bullet comes into being, when I want to bring the bullet in, it's got to instantiate place. So the reset position has to be the same position as the player. Not the player, but the spawn point for the bullet. Spawn point for the bullet. Okay? So someplace ahead of the player a little bit. Right? And we need to figure that out. So the reset position is going to be at the spawn point. And we're going to get that information from the constructor of the bullet. When the bullet is constructed or made, right, we're going to have to get that information or pass it into the information again. Change the position of the bullet. Which means we need some kind of set position method that we're going to have to make it public so that the position of the bullet can be set by the player. All right, that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. So I'm going to go in here and underneath public, I'm going to make this new public set position method. Again, you can make also a setter for position and getter, but set position is what I want to use here. And I want to say that this dot x, right? Actually, I'm not wrong. Sorry, I might already have this because inside my superclass, no, I don't. I have start and update. Anyways, I may have put that. That's something that we want to probably do in the future. But I could say that this dot x is equal to the position, and I'm going to pass in a point. So I'm going to say that new position, right, is going to be of type create.js.point. Again, in the future, I may want to create a vector2 object or whatever. And what I'm going to say is that whatever the point is, the new position x, this dot x is the new position x dot x, and this dot y is the new position dot y. And I wonder if I even have to do that. I wonder if I have in my object class. Let me just go in here. My object class has, yeah, it does. See, it has a position. Haha. Ha ha ha. But I think I have to update this position itself. This position. And do I update it somewhere else? I might have to update it somewhere else. Yeah, just to keep it simple, I want to make sure that the island does that too. Where do I set the island's position? Yeah, here it is, this position.x. So I update the position in my island, which means I update the position in my cloud, right? Which means I could do something like this position.x, this position is equal to the new position, which is the better way to do it. This dot position is equal to the new position. Right, so it kind of sets the position. Right now, I want to do that because if I can do this, if I set the position with a new position, whatever it is, x and y coordinates, right, then I can position the bullet where I want. Like I want to put it here in my spawn point, right, of my plane. Okay, so that's the first thing. So I know that I have an option or some special setter to do that. I also want to check bounds differently. I want to say that when my bullet leaves the screen, right? When it's less than or equal, because my bullets are going to fire upwards. My bullet for my my player. But if I think about this, and if I want to recycle my bullets, right? If I want to recycle my bullets, maybe there should be a way of detecting which side it's going to be. So if my bullets leaves any bounds, left, top, and bottom, if it leaves anywhere, somehow it gets removed from the game, or I should send a signal that the bullet has left. So check to see where it is, and then send a signal back to the to return that if the bullet has gone. Right, and the reason for this is because a couple ways I could think about this. One is if I check bounds for this specific bullet, I make only one bullet for the player only, and he has bullets, so he's going to fire at the enemy ship. And then when it hits, what about when the enemy ship fires at me? I'm going to make another bullet, enemy bullet. That's another option, but it's going to be identical to this bullet, but the check bounds is going to be different, right? So that's kind of be, or I can make a class, bullet, super class, and I can make player bullet, enemy bullet. That's what I'm asking. Like, there's many ways to do this thing, right? For now, we're going to make it so that I'm only going to check bounds the top because I want to make the player bullet work for the first time, right? Again, I'm operating in iterations. I'm iterating. I'm making my player bullet work. Does it function the way I want? Generic bullet afterwards. Okay. So private check bounds. Again, this is different. Some people operate differently. I operate in the way that when I program, I operate so it's minimum viable product. Can I make the bullet fire? Great. It fires. Fantastic. Next iteration. Ooh, I got to make a bullet so that it works. You know. So for every bullet. It's a generic bullet. Whoa, I got to make some changes to the bullet class, right? But I already have something that works. Whereas if you work on trying to optimize first, you have nothing, right? Until you're done, right? And that doesn't make any sense to me. That's not how we do it these days anyway. All right, so check bounds. If the y-axis, if it's less than or equal to the top of my screen, right, plus this dot height, then reset the bullet, right? But the bullet in this particular case is not going to be reset. The bullet is going to be removed, right? So I need a reset position. I need a position where this thing is going to appear somewhere off screen. And I can handle removing the bullet myself outside of this thing, right? So the reset position is this dot y is equal to negative 10,000. Right? Like my recommendation is putting it like at negative 10,000. Right? And again, you have to be careful here because we don't want to make it too big. Maybe 1,000 for our case, right? And then this dot x, the same, it's not random. It's going to be negative 1,000. Okay? Off screen to the left somewhere. Okay, you can't see it. Left and down, or left and up, right? Top left corner of the screen. Now, here's the problems with this approach. Too long, because if I make this screen negative, if I put this off screen negative 1,000, negative 1,000, my container that holds my object changes size. All of a sudden, it goes from 640 by 480 to negative, what we call it, 16, negative 1,000 to 480, and negative 1,000 to whatever. It's become much bigger. So I got to be very careful how I do this, right? but it's got to be somewhere off screen. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Already, my container is big enough to hold my ocean, which is negative 1400, like way up on the top, right? It's way up there. So it's already that big. My container is quite big already. But I'm just going to put it out there to you so you understand what's happening. So you know what, like, I don't know why, Tom, but the game really slowed down when I made it minus 200,000. Yeah. Minus 200,000 means I got to keep track of that position. Minus 200,000 somewhere on the screen, right? Okay. So I reset my position to negative 1,000. And that happens when I leave the screen. When I leave the screen, the bullets leaves and it's gone. Back on the screen. Okay. And okay, cool. So now what happens? Well, my vertical speed is 5. Going down this way, but I want to go up, right? Which means that's going to be my vertical speed. I want to make my vertical speed minus 10, right? So it's going to go up the screen 10 pixels per frame, pretty fast, right? Here's my update position, right? This dot y plus or equals the vertical speed. I'll keep that the same. And I update my position, x and y, so I know where it is, right? Leave the screen. I update my position, and I check my bounds, okay? Check my bounds. I update my bid position, and I check my bounds. Okay, so what's going to happen is minus 10, it's going to get to the reset position, which is negative 1,000, right? So here's my start. On start, I reset. Oh, this is different. This is a bullet, right? So I don't want to reset on start. I want to go to the position that's set by the player. The player is going to set my position. Wherever the player object is, plus a little bit, that's where my bullet's going to appear for the first time. Okay, so start, it appears. I'm going through it, right? It fires, it goes off the screen because I'm checking to see that in my update, I update my position, I check my bounds. It goes off the screen, I put it to negative 1,000, and then I keep updating my position. I update my position, update my position. I keep updating my position because it's negative 1,000. Keeps going to go. It's not going to stop at negative 1,000. It's going to keep moving, right? Uh-oh. Right? So I'm going to say something like this. I'm not going to change my position. I'm not going to update my position, right? If my one of my vertices is negative 1,000. Once at negative 1,000, whether it's my y or my x, and it's something like is less than or equal to 0, right? Something like that. If it's less than or equal to 0, I'm not checking my position. Again, this only works for this bullet, right? Later on, we'll have some kind of other thing that works for all bullets. So inside my update method, I'm going to say something like this. I don't want to check bounds or even update my position if I'm already past my point. My update function won't function anymore. It'll just do nothing. Okay? So I'm going to say this dot position dot y is less than, or I can actually say this dot y. That's fine too. That's the same. If this dot y, right, is less than or equal to, actually less than 0, right? Has to be less than 0. Then I don't want to check my position, right? Which means that if this dot y is greater than 0, only if it's greater than 0, right? So below the screen, so I can see my object. If I can't see my object, don't update, right? So take this away, put this back. Let's format. I'm going to format my document. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to keep on checking update if my bullet is off the screen. It should be just off the screen. Stay there. Stay at negative 1,000, whatever it is, right? And not move. It'll be on top of each other, right? But I don't care about checking my position anymore. Okay. So that's the bullet. I think that's good enough to start off with the bullet. Okay, my bullet's created. Sheet. It's part of my TextureAtlas. Now I need to think about how I can fire the bullet. Okay, well, let's do a couple things. First of all, let's go back to my plane. So in my plane object, my plane, here it is. I have my object, and my object starts at a certain point, right? My plane begins at y is equal to 430 pixels. I know that my plane is about 65 pixels total, right? And if I was to go to my texture packer for a second and look at my plane, just to give you an idea, and I hover over it, right? You can see that exactly 65 pixels by 65 pixels, which means 32.5 pixels is the total height of my plane. If I take 32.5 pixels and I give it a little bit more space, let's say 35 pixels total, right? From the center of my plane, whatever my position of my plane is, that is going to be my spawn point, 35 pixels. So that means negative 35. That's my spawn point for my bullets. So from my X position, if my X position is 320, sorry, my Y position is 430, I'm gonna subtract 35 pixels from it, and that's gonna be my spawn point. So let's put this out. So I've got half width, half height. As an example, these are private, right? Or care about them, I'll leave them as is. They're usually private, but their default is public. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to also put another private variable called spawn point, which I'll leave like this. And maybe I'll call it bullet spawn, which is going to be a position. That's what it's going to be, the position. CreateJS.point. Okay. So this is the CreateJS.point, right? And what I want to do is I want to say something like this. In my start method, wherever I'm going to declare this stuff, I'm going to say that this dot bullet spawn, right, is equal to a new CreateJS dot point. And I need to take two things in, an X and a Y. My Y position, right? My Y position is always going to be whatever this dot Y is, right? Plus, right? Minus 35 pixels, right? And my X position is going to be the same as this dot X. In fact, this thing right here, this thing is going to be constant. I'm always going to update my spawn position every single time, right? Bullet spawn. So when I update my mouse, this X. I also check my bounds, but I'm also going to update my bullet spawn. So this dot bullet spawn, right? Dot, and I can say dot X, right? And this dot bullet spawn dot Y is equal to this dot Y minus 35. Yeah. Support. Oh, overloading operators? I don't think so. Not yet. It will. Doesn't mean it does. Doesn't mean it won't. Right? Overloading is going to happen eventually because JavaScript version ECMAScript 7 or 8. I'm not sure which one it is. They're working on it. Right? So they're going to try and get it as close to C# or Java as possible. So eventually, yeah. And then, yeah, it would solve the problem, wouldn't it? It's like going to say this is equal to or plus this, right? Plus equals to.
Yeah,
right?
because instead of keeping track of the bullets, I would just put the position there and sort of offset.
Well, I'm saying this is where the bullet spawn is going to be, right? Because when I press my button, the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to say player.bullet spawn. So when I click my button, remember, when I'm clicking my button, what's really happening? I'm listening for an event, right? Mouse event, when I click my button. So whenever I click my button down event, right? It's my mouse button down event that I'm listening for. And my friends, that is not a player thing. That is an object thing. That is a window thing. Like if you think about how I'm listening for my mouse click event, right? I'm clicking on the window. That's what I'm doing, right? Window.on click. That's what I'm doing when I'm pressing my button down, right? When I click anywhere on the window, I'm firing my bullet. That's what's happening. And when I do that, I have to make an event that charges my bullet and makes it fire. Right? Does that make sense? Just like when I press my buttons, my keys to move my mouse or my player around, right? I'm not really moving my player around with my keys from that particular thing. I'm moving my player around when because I'm listening for key input all the time, right? And key input is not a scene thing, it's a window thing, right? Key input. So let's think about this now. So I've got this set up. And what I want to do is I got to think about when I'm going to set up my event handler. So remember that I only want to set up my event handler for my bullet, but I need a bullet manager. I need some way of managing my bullets, right? I haven't instantiated my bullets, and I'm definitely not going to do it in my plane. My plane and my bullets have nothing to do with each other, right? I just need to know where my bullet spawn is for my plane. That's what this is doing. Scene now. So in my play scene, let's try a bullet out, right? My play scene, what I want to do is I want to create an array of bullets, just like I did clouds. I want to create something called bullets. And I want to create some amount of bullets, however many there are, right? All right, so I'm going to make private. I'm going to call this new bullets array, right, which is going to be a type of objects.bullet, right? I'm not done yet. I also have to go fix up my index.html, by the way. And I also want some kind of bullet number, right? My bullet number, which is going to be a number. I don't know how many yet. Okay, however many bullets I decide. Maybe 20. Okay, so those are the two things: my objects.bullet and my bullet number. Cool. Well, I want to add some bullets, and here's where I add my clouds, right? So I need to add my bullets before my clouds, like I talked about, right? So I want to kind of describe the bullets here. So I want to say this._bullets, bullets is equal to a new array of objects.bullet. I created my new array. It's an empty container right now. And I'm going to say that this._bullet num is equal to 20. Doesn't matter. Maybe I'll just to keep it the same, I'll put this on top of the other one. Okay, so 20 bullets. Bullets can't fire more bullets. I have to wait till recharge, right? Now we'll figure this out. All right, so 20 bullets. I don't know. I've created my bullet number, and now in my my update, it keeps track of my bullets, right? So that means I need some kind of bullet tracking for each of my bullets that I fired. Same thing like I did with my clouds, right? So I'm going to say this._bullets dot for each, right? And I want to have for each bullet, I want to return an object, right? I want to do something for each bullet, right? So each bullet that's on screen, if any, I want to say bullet.update. That's very simple, right? And I'm not checking collisions yet because I haven't set that up for my bullets, so I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll come back here. And this one, I just want to move bullets around. So this, my update is done. Next. I got my plane. I got my clouds. I'm going to add all my bullets. This is the way I'm going to handle it. Okay. So I'm going to go to this for loop. I'm going to say for, right? I'm going to say my counts. Hey, curious. Can I use the same variable here? Is that okay? In C# maybe. In JavaScript, you know, we might have some issues. Just putting it out there. If my counts, even though I'm using let, right? If my count is less than the bullet number, this._bullet number, right? Then keep counting, right? And now what I want to say is something like this. I want to say that this._bullets, right? Here's my bullets, count, right, is equal to a new objects.bullet. So I'm going to do this one time. I'm going to set up my bullet object, and I'm going to pass in a reference to my TextureAtlas. And what I want to do is I want to add all my bullets, this dot add childs, right? This dot underscore bullets. Bullets. I've added them all onto my display list. So I have a bullet list, so I can look at which one it is, right? So I keep track of them, but I'm not destroying them. I'm just resetting them, right? So I add them to the scene. But hold on. Where do they go? Add child means they got added to the scene, right? So I want to set their position, right? I want to set their position immediately. I don't want them to reset. I only want them to reset when I leave the screen, right? Now I could set the position. I could do whatever. But for now, let's just say that this dot underscore bullets, bullets dot count dot, I want to set position, to minus 1,000 again, and minus 1,000. And of course, this isn't right because, did I do this right? Oh no, I need to set a new point, which is a new create.js.points. Sorry, minus 1,000, minus 1,000.
Can you just call the reset method?
I could, but it's private, right? And if I make it public, that means that the other reset methods got to be made public too, because that's part of the class, right?
Okay.
So following the same practices we're talking about. Not to say that it's not possible or there's not another solution, or maybe that I can set the bullets to reset anyway and then reset the position later. I just want to set them all to 1,000, 1,000, right? So they're not on the screen physically.
The way you're designing, right? If you're adding all the bullets at once, it makes more sense for them to start off
The reset position. Okay, hold on a second. You're right. You're right. Hold on a second.
So the bullet.
Hold on. You're right. Bullets. Let's go back and do that again. So in my start method, you're saying make them reset. Since I'm doing that already, might as well. That's what you're saying. Mouse out. That's button. Bullets. You're saying that my reset should be called on start. Okay. That does the same thing. Okay, but my position, when I set my position, right, I'm going to update it. And if I bring my bullet back into play, it should still run. This part should still run. It shouldn't be off screen. All right. And the great thing is each bullet's going to have its own layer, right? Below the clouds. All the bullets are going to be below the clouds. I don't have to track them, but all the bullets are going to lie underneath my clouds and above my player ship. My player ship is going to be below them all. So really, in retrospective, if you looked at it from the side, they'd be going like this, like they'd be rising, right? Because all my bullets are above my player ship in this particular way of doing it, okay? So I'm setting the position, my start method, my check bounds, all the stuff is the same. One thing I should do just before I forget is in my index.html, I should add my bullet and my scenes should know about my bullet beforehand. So I'm going to put it right below my button. I put this as bullet.js, because if you don't have this, then bullets won't ever appear. Yeah. So that's this. Are we clear so far? So far we've made a bullet. We've changed my sprites. I know lots of work so far. I know it's long. It's a long video, but I got to do it this way so I finished what I'm doing here, right? And now I get to listen for my key presses, right? I want to press my button, my left mouse button. And if you think about it, what I want to do is like I want to press on the screen. I'm clicking on the screen somewhere, right? I'm going to make an event handler for a mouse click, mouse down, right? And I want to do it somewhere strategic because I want to remove the event handler, right? Handler when I leave my scene. So that means inside my scene itself, inside when I go to my scene, my play scene, somewhere down in here, as soon as my, before my check collision method is by itself, but what I want to do is in the main part where I add everything, right? Down near the bottom where I added my score label and blah, 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 I'm going to also add my method. Again, think about this, window.on, right? I go mouse down, right? That's what I'm really doing, right? Window.on mouse down, right? And I want to make a mouse event, whatever that mouse event is. On mouse down, I got to do something, right? I got to fire bullet. So I'm going to call this fire bullet event, which is going to be private. But this is bad, right? If I do window mouse bound, what I really want to do is I want to say that window.on event listener or add event listener, right? And then mouse down, my mouse down event. And I want to call the different kind of event that I want. For example, I'm going to call this thing bullet fire, you know, something like that. When I click on the button, it fires my bullets, right? So I'm going to call this underscore this dot underscore. I don't have it yet, but I'll call it bullet fire. Okay. Now inside there, I'm going to, on the bottom, I'm going to make a new private event, right? Called which returns void called bullet fire underscore bullet fire, right? Which is of type mouse down event. So create.js dot mouse events dot okay events create.js mouse events returns void. Right? This dot underscore bullet fire. Did I make it wrong? Private. Oh, how about function? Function. Private function, bullet fire. What am I having a problem with? No function. I was right the first time. Because we're inside of a class. I don't need to call it. I don't need to do that. But why isn't this working? This dot bullet fire. Mouse event. Oh, because it's requiring this mouse event thing to happen. That clear it? Yeah, it does. I'll figure out that later on. That is really weird. That's never happened before. Anyways, let's continue. So I'm going to say that when the bullet fires, I want to move. Now this is interesting. How do I handle which ones are off screen and which ones are in flight? I don't want to call the same one that was in flight back to where I am, right? I want to fire the bullet, and I only want to take the ones that are off screen, reset, in the reset position. I want to basically search. I only have 20 to search through, thank God. To the next bullet. I want to find what the next bullet is, right? That hasn't been fired, right? So I got to keep track of that somehow, right? Because I don't want to go search. Searching is bad, right? So if, for example, the next bullet, if it goes off screen, if bullet 0 goes off screen, right? But meanwhile, I have my next bullet is bullet 9, right? As an example, and I fire bullet 9. Now my next bullet is bullet 10. Fire bullet 10. My next bullet is bullet 11. Keep going, right? Keep going, keep going, keep going. Now my next bullet is bullet 20. I fire bullet 20, but there's no more bullets. Now my next bullet must be bullet 0. So it's got to keep going back down that road, right?
Well,
I'm saying this is one way.
Only travel in a straight line and up top at constant speed, then that would work.
Yes.
But if you are firing in different directions,
like
there's
this.
a possibility that bullet 1 may be available, but bullet 2 will not.
So how do I do it?
Well, you could use some kind of priority.
I could. I want to keep it simple for everybody, though. I want to make it so it's understandable, right? For everybody. So what I mean by that is I fire my bullets. I want to retrieve the bullet that's free, that's available.
Use a stack.
Could use a stack. Okay, could use a stack.
So whenever a bullet goes off on top of the stack, use some of the bullets more often than the others, right? But it ensures that you only have one operation in each bullet.
Well, or I have a bullet stack, don't I? Problem is, I have my bullet stack is my bullet list. That is my bullet stack. Stack, a list in JavaScript is a list, right? There is no stack structure, right? I could make a stack, but it's just an array, right? It's an array of bullets. That's what it is. So now I can make another array, is what you're saying, right? And what I do is I take all the bullets out of my array, move it to another array, copy one array to the other. That's what you're saying. So these are all the available bullets. When I go through the array, there's still bullets, there's still objects, right? So as they move off the screen, they pop off the used ones pop off of the available array, right?
Yep.
And they're just back into the regular pool, right? The regular pool, whatever it is, right? Okay, but that means I'm moving bullets from one array to another, right? So I have the bullets pool, and I have the pool that I'm able to use, and the ones that are already in flight.
So I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting you keep a stack of indices.
Same thing, Eddie. Yeah. So what you're saying is keep two bullet arrays. So I got a bullet array here, bullets, right?
So I'm suggesting that you have an array of numbers. Right? So whenever a bullet goes off screen, right, it simply pushes its ID or its
okay.
index to that array of numbers. So your number array is only
so it's not as big. It's not as big as the bullet. It's not as big as the bullet. Yeah. So it's just the array that I'm looking at, right?
Right.
Array list.
When you're looking for an available bullet, you can always just access the bullet array with that index. Right? So it's not quite as expensive as removing.
Okay. Yes, it is. You're right. So I always have one bullet list, but then I'm only just moving the available numbers that I want, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I would add all of them. They're all available, right? When I click bullet, once I hit the bullet, then I pop that number off the array, pop that number off the stack. But the problem with that is, and this is just, I was putting it out there, right? The problem with that approach is that in C# that would work, right? Counting a number of index. So the bullet would be, oh, no, you could do it, a number array. And the numbers would keep track of the number, which number is available. Yeah, no, you can do it. Here's how I do it. So private, this is what you're saying. You're saying, let's call it a bullet pool, right? And we'll say it's of type number array. It's a number array, right? But the number doesn't have to be sequential. It's just numbers that are available, right? So we read the number 0 in that index, right? We might have only 10 objects, but the numbers in the objects might be different. That's all it is. So the number array, the bullet pool. And then what I do here is instantiate, this is what you're saying. And I like your thinking. That's not a bad idea. I probably would have thought about doing it differently, but it doesn't matter. I'll do it your way today, since we're asking. Well, I probably would, again, somewhat similar to what you're doing, but you can keep track of the bullet pool by literally popping it off the bullet. Like you already have a bullet array, right? Pop it off. Doesn't exactly. So the bullet stuff, when you pop it off, where does it go? Right? It's got to go somewhere. So I would have another array. I have two arrays. One array that's used, one array that's available. Right? But in your way is fine too. Your way might be more efficient because it's less memory. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. I'm fine. I'll do it his way. No problem. I like it.
Ronaldo had a comment.
Yeah, I was just saying, why not simply use a simple list with just a number? I know there is this problem. Oh, maybe there are too many bullets on the screen, but let's increase the list. We don't have to worry too much about memory because the list won't be bigger, like more than 100 positions. Why not?
How big the list? Like how many bullets? 500? 150?
50 probably is enough.
Okay, you get 50 bullets, and then
Fire that fast.
I usually fire the bullets. They go off the screen, and then how do you know what's the next bullet available? What do? I just increase the next bullet, and then when I go to the end, I start over? Is that what you want me to do?
That's the cooling, right?
Okay. Same. It's you're right. I'm optimizing a lot, right? So I'll just do it this way. I'll do what you said. I'll go back to the bullet theory that I said, which was let's make this 50. So 50 bullets, more bullets, and it's,
Always don't keep like a petty thing. Just pass the word you created back to the list and let it remove itself.
oh Jesus Christ. Let's just do it this way for now. One way. We like to finish the bullets thing, okay? And then you guys can optimize the way you like, right? Bullet number, right? So what happens is this. When I click the button, right? I instantiate the bullet. It's going to fly already, right? Because the bullet itself will take care of itself. I'll say that, so whatever now I have to have a bullet counter. That I have to have. So we have a bullet number, 50, but we also have a bullet counter. So I'll say bullet counter, which is going to be start at 0. Doesn't matter how you do it. There's many ways to optimize this thing. It doesn't matter. Not going to be that inefficient anyway. Bullet counter, which is also a number. There we go. Okay, so the bullet counter is going to do one of these. It's going to say that when I fire the bullet, it's going to move the first bullet. It's going to say this dot underscore bullets, and then this dot underscore bullet counter, right? Dot position is equal to player or plane. Am I in the plane? No, I'm placing. This dot underscore plane dot spawn bullet spawn. So why did I set this up? Because now the position of the bullet is equal to the position of the bullet spawn every time. Whenever I fire the bullet, it's going to appear there right away, right? And once it appears there at the bullet position, the bullet spawn position, it's going to fly by itself, right? However, I need to update my counter, right? So I'll say this dot underscore plus plus, right? So my bullet counter increases in the number, right? But there's going to come a time when the bullet counter is going to go out of range, right? For example, I have my bullet number, right? The size of my objects. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say something like this. If this dot underscore bullet counter, right, is greater than this dot underscore bullets dot length, no, that's 50. I go to 50. It's greater, no, length. Or I have to read that, but bullet num minus 1. It's greater than this dot underscore bullet num minus 1, which is 49, as an example, because I want to change. I don't want to make it so hard coded. Then this dot underscore bullet counter is equal to 0. So I reset. Go back to the other. That's what you were saying. This is what you're saying, right? So I have a bullet counter. Fire the bullets. What's one called? When you go to the end, you see that it's the index is at the end, and you just reset the index at the beginning. And you're saying that that'll never have a problem, right? Because there's only 50 bullets. Okay, let's see if this works. Now, one more thing is when I end the scene, when I'm going to leave the scene, right? Which is I'm done. I've collided. I want to leave, which is somewhere here. Remove all children. Before I remove all children, I'm also going to window remove event listener, mouse down. And then the event listener, which is this dot underscore bullet fire. This is super important, guys, because if you don't do this, you're going to be in your start screen, press the button, right? Because it's bound to the window, it's going to start firing bullets, and it's going to go, I don't know where I'm firing bullets from because there's no plane, right? It's going to try. But if I remove the event listener, I'm actually going to get rid of the mouse down event, so it won't work when I'm in my start screen or my end screen, right? Does that make sense? So remember, I'm adding I'm using my event listener on my window object to fire the buttons, the window, right? Or the document, whatever you want to say. Whew, lots of changes. Let's see if this freaking thing works. We made a lot of changes without testing anything, which is also a real challenge for me. Yes.
There are possibilities of remove all listeners.
Remove all listeners?
Yeah, without knowing the reference.
No, let's take a look at that. Let me go back to that. Yeah, I believe you can do that. But you're talking about remove all listeners? Let's see if I can do that. We're in window.remove. No. There is nothing like that. Remove all
Because
listeners.
there are multiple listeners for each event, right? So how are you going to distinguish between
Yeah, you can't. You have to pass in this bullet fire, this particular one.
You can remove like listeners for each event.
Yeah, which is what I've done. Okay, let's just hit server. Okay, and we want to definitely bring up our inspector here because I know something's going to break. Okay, so first of all, does it fire the bullets here, right? Remember, I'm not even pressing on the window. It's the window, not the screen anymore, not the canvas, right? Start. Okay, it's listening. Okay, I like this. It's listening and says uncut type error, cannot read property, undefined of undefined. At play underscore bullet fire play.ts103. So, kind of undefined. Okay, I like that. Those are great errors. What the hell does that mean, by the way? We'll see in a second. No, we're not switching. I gave up. Switch to Unity, right? No. So this dot bullet counter 119, 105, yeah.
You still have the expression for the mouse down.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
That's right. That's okay. That's why it's working. It's calling this bullet fire, right? Every time, right? And it says this bullets.
You have to bind this.
What, this? Bind?
Like this double fire not bind.
Oh, you mean up here?
Oh, in the argument, second argument.
Oh, this? No. I don't believe you do. Why would you have to bind it? Then you have to unbind afterwards. No, I don't think that's the case because look, I'm already getting these events. Like if I go back to my console, I'm getting this is working. It's triggering.
So 103.
Yeah, 103 is the problem. Right? So 103 is here, this line where I'm saying that this bullet counter dot position, right, is equal to this dot plane dot bullet spawn, right?
That's why I'm saying that. I'm saying this because I had this problem.
Yeah.
And when I used the lambda expression, I noticed that the
Because this is not
wasn't like.
Oh, this part.
just like you did before. So that's why I'm saying you can do bind or you can use an applet. Just do not bind it. You don't have to unbind it because you're going to do it.
You're saying dot bind, right? Yeah. And then now we're going to unbind. No, we have to still unbind. You can't. If you unbind, you have to unbind, guys. Yeah. That's what you're saying, right? All right. So how would you use lambda expression here?
Parentheses.
Here? Oh.
Yeah.
And then return bullet fire?
Yeah.
Oh, like that. You mean like one of these? Like this? Yeah. Okay. Let's see if that works. Because that's why this doesn't. That's why you're saying these. This method doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if that's right. Let's see. Let's see if you're right. I don't know.
Call the function in React.
Right.
You have to call it.
Just mess up. That was weird.
Call the function.
Yay.
Just stop fire. Just put parentheses there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because now you're telling a function which doesn't do anything. Just has a,
Oh, this. You're talking about call it within here, in here. So don't even put a bullet fire.
After this bullet fire, use another.
Oh, okay.
This is me,
You mean this? So this bullet fire you're talking about like this way.
no.
Sorry. What are you talking about?
Just put the parentheses
Brackets.
after the bullet fire.
That's what I did.
Add more parentheses. Yeah. Just call it. Call that just bullet
Oh,
fire.
call it right now. You mean like this?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess yes, that would work too.
And you put inside bracket.
That if I just pass in a reference to this, would it be okay? And I'm wondering if I can do that with my.
Moving the resolution.
Yeah. Nah, it's okay. Same thing.
Yay.
Wait.
Yay.
Let's do it. Let's just re-energize this thing. Sorry. You guys are confusing the crap out of me. Light dash server. Because I want to make sure I'm getting the right window. Okay, so going back to the drawing board, right? Tell me again.
Try the bracket. Before these, start bracket.
But that doesn't matter because
No.
your turn is white, right?
No. So what we want to do is almost like a window.on. That's what we want to do, a window.on event, right? Like we want to do window.on, right? But
I got mine, please. Remove the lambda.
oh, you guys are funny.
Stage, Baton.
Yeah, we can, but bullet fire. Okay, there's another way to do it, by the way. Bullet fire, right? Dot bind, you're saying, right?
And put this. Call the bind. And put this inside.
Oh, this, like this. Yeah, I guess I could do. That's the same as passing in a lambda. It's almost the same. Then you'd have a reference to this coming through, right? But I don't think that's the problem, guys. Anyway. So refresh. Okay, let's just test that that's not the issue. Just bullet fire. Sorry, I just want to go back and make sure. I want to see that error again. Okay. No. I just want to see the error. See?
Yay.
I'd rather have errors for now because I can see the event is working. The other event, the way we did it wasn't working that way. But I see what you're saying, and I'm wondering if I can pass in a reference. I can pass in a reference to self or something like that. Make it equal to this. Yeah, the old way, right? But that's not. That's the window event listener. Or don't even have a bullet fire event listener and put it within. Like this. No, what do you mean? What do you mean? Just do one of these. Why not just do this? Right? Right? Sorry. I meant, let's just comment this out for a second. Actually, it's just undo and comment everything out. That's just that we don't have to work so hard afterwards. We're going to put it back. I just want to see if it works first. If that's the error that you're thinking.
I think.
Wait. Copy, and then we'll say that we're going to do one of these. So you're thinking you want to do one of these, right? Where you're going to do this, and then put that inside there. That's what you're thinking. That's equivalent to what you're saying, guys. Right? I can't unbind though. This would not unbind properly. Like if I did a remove event listener, mouse down, don't know what to do.
Usually what you do, like in React, like you bind it with constructor, and you have a reference of the binding, and then you
Then you can do that, but I'm saying I'm trying to think of what I can do here first. If this doesn't work, the constructor thing won't work either. But you're right. You can do it in the constructor and then go on and bind them afterwards. Let's try it again.
Yay.
It's right here, man.
Yay.
This is it. This is the console log. There's no other. Oh, in here, you mean? So I'm saying that doesn't work. That nice idea you guys have for Windows add event listener doesn't work, right? So that's why I went to this, right? But let us do a couple things here. First of all, to check your theory. Okay, let's check your theory, right? First of all, let's just do this, okay? So I'm going to kind of comment this out. And I want to just do this and see if this works, right? Because if this works, then that's another error. We're thinking about something that's not the reason why it's working this way, right? So I'm going to start. No error. No. Look. Console.log this._bullet counter. Guys, it's not that error. It's not that issue. Let's try it again. So bullet counter. Did I set it to 0? Bullet counter to 0. And then so this is the issue. The issue is it's not keeping track of this, right? Because of the event. Because otherwise, if bullet counter wasn't working, right? If bullet counter was this, No, I know. And that's what I'm saying. I think the reason why we found that out is to confirm what you said, right? Is that we set it up here, right? We know that in my start method, I sent my bullet counter to 0. So it's not undefined. And I defined it up here, right? In my private statement right here. I made this, right? So I know that's okay. But we're losing the reference to this, which is kind of weird. But maybe what we can do is we can do what you said as well. We can move this window.event listener, and we'll bind it inside the constructor.
No, you can just bind the modifier. Keep everything the same way, just add one line.
Let's do it, man. So you're saying inside of my constructor function, which is right here, before we call start, after we call start, okay, doesn't matter when, you want this _bullet fire. Okay.
But now we have the reference for binding.
Now I have to unbind.
No, you can just use the bullet fire now. It's changed.
Oh, this .bullet fire done unbind.
You don't have to unbind it.
Let's see.
When you're going to remove the listener, just pass in that.
Hold on. We'll pass in the bullet fire,
Yeah.
which we did already. But we did that already.
And we have the
What are you talking about? Okay, so that still didn't work. So I'm still did this, right? So I just want to just get this error going, right? Yes.
Now that we have the log, can we try to run the expression?
Sure. Here. So you're talking about one of these, this, and then call it. Right? Here? What?
You need that as well. Say column.
Just talking about the curly braces outside.
Yeah, curly braces.
Oh, you're talking about like this. One of these.
Yeah, and at the end, open close parentheses.
Here? Oh, here. Yeah, okay, I guess you could do that. I guess you could do that. But the problem with this is that might, okay, well, let's see what happens. I will check it. But we're going to get the same. Oh, that's good.
Yay.
You know what?
Yay.
I'll take it.
Yay.
Yeah, okay, I understand why. Because you're using a lambda expression and you're passing in a reference. So then we don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to do this anymore.
You call the start first, and then you call the main.
Yeah, start is good.
Finding it afterwards. That's why.
No, but start is good because I have to call my bullet counter as 0. Right?
Yeah, but at the end of the start, is there a main as well, right?
No. Start is calling main. Yeah. Down here.
So everything gets called first, and then the bind happens. So you should do the bind first before the start. That's the same thing. That's why it didn't work.
Okay, let's try that. Let's try your way. Just for clarity. And so we keep wasting more time. Hold on. This is optimization, guys. This is something we shouldn't be doing. But anyways, fine, no problem. We'll do this, and then let's take away his changes. So put this back. I will, just to make sure that we're good. I'm going to comment this out. I'm not going to just copy that again. Yeah. You know, I'm just trying different things, right? So we'll put this in there, and we'll just use the other way that we did it before. So we'll just say no lambda expression. Just call this dot underscore bullet fire. So we can prove who's right. Right? Start. Now I have a reference. Yeah. Both worked. Can we move on now?
But when you do that,
Oh, man.
trust TextScript because I have to bind every time.
No. We have to use it's the same thing. I don't mind the lambda expression at the end of the day. You can still unbind even with the way he's doing it. You can still unbind, right?
Oh, you can have. Lambda is a wrapper.
No, you can't. No, you can't. He's right. You can't do it. You can't unbind afterwards. And once you're bound, you're bound for life. I mean, if I go back to my regular, if I die, here, let me show you. So let's try this again. Let's leave it as your way. Okay, so I'm gonna just do the same thing. Let's do one of these, right? And I'm gonna bring this one back without the binding. Okay, so I won't bind it up here. So inside here, we'll just unbind. Because we haven't bound anything. And now we use the lambda expression like this, right? Like you said. All right. Can't. Right now, let me die. See? When I remove listeners, that keeps firing the bullet forever. And now it's okay because nothing's happened. There's no bullet to fire. But later on, that's why I want to remove the event listener. Makes sense? Because now what's happening is when the for those people who don't know what we're doing and you're like, what the hell is going on? Why are they binding and unbinding, right? Well, the problem is when we set up an event listener and for our object, our place scene, and then we have a collision later on where we don't have any more life left, right? So here's our lives are gone, right? We want to try and remove, but we don't have a reference to the function somehow, right? Whereas if we did it the other way, yes.
Well, in this situation, so it means we are supposed to pick a list of every single listen that we have.
Yes, but we're only going to have, in our case, we're only going to have maybe 2, right? Maybe the keyboard listeners, which we're going to have to bind and unbind, right? Because the keyboard listener should only work when the play scene's on, right? And like if I use keyboard controls instead of this control, right? The keyboard controls or the controls to control your plane should only work in the play scene and should be unbound in the other scenes. Make sense?
Or you just always put them once.
Sorry, because at least in our project, we are supposed to have 2 players. So you're going to have pretty much twice every single event. And also we're going to have the controllers, right?
No, if you keep the same listeners,
You just unbind them.
you keep track of the like which one is coming.
No, but you're still going to need the list of the list.
You would need a listener list. You could create a listener list. You could. But the way to do that, Because look, here's an example. When we created this add event listener, this object right here that we made, right? If you look at this thing, right, it's a method called bullet fire. Now, if I go out to this thing right here, right, to kind of see if I can get some kind of reference, there's no reference, right? That's the problem. This is an anonymous reference, the anonymous object that gets created. It's almost like doing it inline. That's what this is, right? And because I'm doing it inline, I can't get a reference to this function. Even if I try to bind or unbind, it doesn't work, right? See what I'm saying? Because this is an anonymous reference right here. Whereas the way we were doing it with this way, right? This way here, right? Let me show you the difference. We have to bind it up again, up here. We have to bind it up, right? Once we bind it, this bullet fire, right? Now, I don't know if you have to unbind. I think you can just remove listener, but let's see. So when we do it this way, we see the numbers going, but then no, it's gone, right? And so when you go back to the scene again, right? If I restart,
Yay.
right?
Yeah, I'm just asking because usually in other languages, the structure of that listener should have a list inside, and you are able to control it.
Yeah, you can't, not in JavaScript. You have to keep track of it. Either keep track of it yourself, right? For each of the types you have to do, right? So for example, for each of the events, it's like you're dispatching an event, right? When I dispatch an event, I have to see what the event is bound to. If it's an anonymous reference, which means some reference in space, right? You don't know what that is, it's lost. You've lost the event, right? The reference to the event, right? So what you could do, there's another way you could do this, by the way, using his method, right? Is you could make a reference to the lambda expression. No, you can make a reference to the lambda expression first, right? Say, call it something else. Here, we'll use your method and I'll fix it for you, just to make sure you're happy, right?
No.
Wait, we can make
it this way. I'm just concerned about the
number of
single event I have to
bind and unbind is, I get it. But what you could do is see this thing here. If we went with your method,
Just move that layer like another time.
yes, you could do that too. Yes, you can make another class, static. That's another thing. You can make a static object,
That's what I do.
static object, and then from there, we're not going to do that now. This is stuff I wanted to avoid, right? A different class, a controller class. And then from there, you have all the listers listed, and you can turn the controller class off and on. That's all you're doing. Okay. There you go. There's your answer. All right. Okay. Can I move on now? All right. So we've got our bullets. We have our bullet firing. That was a nice conversation. I love the conversation. Just waste of time, right, for us, because it's nice to understand. But for people who don't understand what we're talking about, right, all over there. So let's go back. Let's see if we can fire the bullets now.
Yay.
But the bullets are not going now.
Yay.
Hold on a second. All right, so more troubleshooting. So the bullet didn't spawn anywhere, right? The bullet didn't spawn. I want to see where this bullet is. So I want to say that, okay, show me where the bullet. So this, that underscore bullets. Remember, we're just doing some troubleshooting, which I should have been doing instead of arguing about binding and unbinding, but it's okay. I'm just bitching now, right? Dot position. So I want to see what that is, right? And I want to output this position in the console log. I know I'm getting my counter working. My counter is working, but what about my position? Where the heck is this thing? Is it underneath my other bullets? Like, what the hell is it, right? So I want to print this out. So for each of my bullets, tell me the position. That's good. How come it's not moving? So the bullet counter, the bullet gets into play. Let's go back to the bullet stuff. So this works. This actually, the position of the bullet itself is being recorded. right? So I know that for sure. So this is okay. I know my bullet counter, that's working. That's okay. Right? So these two things are working, but the problem is that my bullet's not going anywhere. That's not okay, right? So let's see let's go back to the bullet class. So I'm saying we did too many changes at once. So here's my bullet class now. Okay, let's puzzle this out again. Okay, so check bounds. Y is less than or equal to 0, which it would be, plus this height, then reset. Okay, resets it back. That resets it back. Right? And then what I say is that I set my position. It's equal to the new position, my position. But I'm not, who cares about position using the set position method? What I really want to do is I also want to change the X and Y. The new position dot X and this dot Y. And I'm using position for collisions, right? So that's why I'm using it here. Okay.
Yay.
Okay. Right? So I want to see the position X and Y of the bullets now. Let's see what the position X and Y of the bullets are now. So I'm going to put out every frame when I update my position, when I call this. Let me go back to my frames. Update position in my update function. If my this dot Y is greater than 0, I want to call every frame. I don't care. This dot, so console.log. I'll say X plus this dot X. Troubleshooting, right? Console.log Y. I don't have to do this plus this dot Y. So let's see what I get here. And fire. They're always going to stay there, never changing. But that's good. Yeah, that's okay. I'm happy. I'm happy. Don't worry. Mix is really slow. We can look at the game really slowly now. But you can see how many calls it's taken to do that, right? Every time I print to the console. All right. This is okay, but I don't want to do it here. I want to do it when I click my button. So I want to go to my player, my bullets, my plane, my scene. Where's my scene? Play scene. And I want to increase the bullet counter, but not the position so much, but the actual position. Because this is bad. So let's put in not this dot X and this dot Y, but rather this dot X and dot Y. It's only when I click the button. Great. That's the problem.
Yay.
So I'm resetting it somewhere back to -1000, 1000. That's what's happening. All right, let's go back to the bullet. And what's happening is it's the boundary check. The boundary check. If this dot Y is less than or equal to 0, check bounds. Let's just not do the check bounds for a second, okay? So I'm just going to go do one of these. On position and start. So it's nothing to do with the check bounds.
Yay. Yay.
It's nothing to do with the check bounds because I just polished this one. And that means that we're never getting the update position because this dot Y is never greater than 0. So let's get rid of this one. Update the position because we're going to call update position every time. All right, and ta-dum.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Okay, so that is not the problem. Update position, let's look at that. This dot y plus equal to this dot vertical speed, which is -10. All right. I think what I want to do is I want to see a bullet on the screen. Just a bullet. This dot x and this dot y, it's going to fly up the screen. It's a train wreck, like last class that I've done. Okay. You guys are leading me down the wrong path. So check bounce, if this is less than equal to 0 plus this dot height, that's the only time it's going to be off the screen. So when it's less than equal to 0, so the y less than 0, and that's when it's going to reset. Let's just not do, I'm just not going to do check bounce, okay? Just not going to do check bounce. Update position only. So when my new position is equal to this, I'm setting my new position. I'm also setting my X and Y position. I'm never setting it to things except for the first reset. I could, but then where would they set up? 0, 0, top left corner. Okay, sure. I'll change all my resets. How about that? Just because you said it.
Yay.
Yeah, but wait.
Yay.
Wait a minute. What happened there? Mine is 340.
Yay.
Mine is 340. Why? Vertical speed. Y plus equals to the vertical speed. I start increasing the vertical speed, but I've never instantiated my object. I don't instill in. Okay, hold on a second. No. My Y position is plus equal to the vertical speed, right? Oh. Oh wait. Okay, we'll just do this. Just give me my position. Don't update anything. Okay, but they're up there. See them?
Yay.
They're up there. Okay. I like this. I like this. But what about my set position? How come this is not working? So troubleshooting, like I said, troubleshooting 101. Right? Let me go back into my kill my plane, don't kill that. My game object is my index.html. My island doesn't have to change. My cloud, I can close that off. Game.ts, I may have to modify bullet for sure. TextureAtlas, I can close off that. My button and my start. All right, so these are the ones. So let's go back to play. So I put it there. Bullet fire, and I set the position, my bullet spawn, and then this dot plane dot bullet spawn. This dot plane dot bullet spawn. So what is this dot plane dot bullet spawn? So hold on. Let's do that. Log. I'll put out this dot plane, this underscore plane dot bullet spawn. Let's pull that out, and I'll figure it out. All right.
Yay.
Why? So I've got a position. My bullet position is being created, and I'm setting my X and Y. Okay, so that's weird. That shouldn't be. Right? So that means that I got to do one of these. I'm never resetting now. I'm not resetting anymore. Right? I need to put one of these here. And this somehow I'm just going to try and figure this out here, guys. Sorry. But is equal to this dot underscore plane dot bullet spawn dot x and dot y. Just going to do the long way. So I don't know what's the problem. Got up here where my bullet's supposed to be. All right, fire. There. That's good. I told you I want to see a bullet on the bloody screen, right? That's all I want to see, right? All right, so somehow when
I think you put the breeze before you the breeze small.
No, I know why.
The speed is the same as
No, it's not that. Nope, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't detect when I set position until I do that. Then that should do the same thing I just did. So I don't care about this anymore because I know that that's happening. I'm telling you, this is all troubleshooting because I tried to do too many things at one time and then I got distracted by some people, right? All right, I don't blame anyone. I blame myself. Okay, so this is good. Sit on the bullet size. Now let's put all this stuff back. So update position. See if it runs forever.
Yay. 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 Yay.
I only have one bullet. This check bounce. That back in. So when check bounce comes into play, hold on. It resets and resets the bullet back to where it was. There's a reset position. And then I've reset. I'm going to put this all back. Reset vertical speed. Right? Vertical speed minus 10. Resets. Puts it out to where it's supposed to be. In my update function, it keeps on checking update positions and stuff like that, even when it's at some weird position. And yeah, sure. I only got one bullet now.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah. Yes.
In the set position, can we try to clone this?
No, that's not the issue. No, it's something else. So this dot bullet counter is 0, right? And hold on a second. How many of these bullets do I have? I said 50, right? Looks like I have 50, but somehow now I don't. Wait. Do all of them get updated at the same time? They all move at the same time? Wait a minute. Like they're all on top of each other. Because this bullet counter, so it's 0, set position to some bullet spawn, right? And then increment the bullet counter by ++, right? And then I come and click this button again, and the bullet counter, what should I call it, goes from 1 set position to the bullet spawn. Okay, cool. But why is the bullet itself not showing up? We're gonna have to go back and do that troubleshooting again. Wow, man, this is really tedious, and I'm overtime right now. So much for easy bullets, right? All right, it's just because of the way I did it this time. So bullet counter, I know it's a train wreck. So I've got these, it's been all week like this, all week. Let's just do this thing here. So I say the console.log, and then dot position. That should just tell me the new position of the bullets every time I press the button. All right, so start.
Yay.
Did it increase? increment. Wait a minute. Okay, now I got a console log that too. Bullet counter. Oh. 1, 2. Why? So it's working. Hold on a second. Let's go to 50.
Yay.
I know, it's just silly.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
I gotta play the game.
Just use the number.
No. Ah. Undefined. Play bullet fire. Wait a minute. It should reset. If this dot bullet counter is greater than this dot bullet number dot negative minus 1, then this dot bullet counter should reset to 0. Bullet counter is going to this. What's bullet num minus 1? Wait a minute.
Maybe you are like doing the check after the console log. So the console log is that.
No. No. Hold on a second. I'm at 50, right?
Chain number 10 first.
Guys, you're just making me, slowing me down. I shouldn't listen to you guys at all. So, hold on. Bullet number, bullet counter.
So it never goes greater than 49.
0. Bullet number is 0. Bullet counter is 50. That doesn't make sense.
Or at equal to.
When is equal to?
Greater than or equal to. Or minus 2.
Okay, I'll make it greater than or equal to. Yeah, but that's not the problem. That's not the problem why I can't fire my bullets. I only fired one bullet, then it's gone.
No, that was the point.
No. Look. 49, right? Okay. Yeah, but that's not the problem that I have. I fire one bullet. And now the location's all the same. No, I didn't.
Yay.
Okay, that's fixed. Okay, so that it rolls over, that's fixed. Let's keep going. Now I got to fix the position, right? Because let me just check this out. The one thing that I have here is information, right? So I have a prototype that's of type, that's the object. So this is the position. And I'm actually looking at only the position. So what I want is actually not the position now, but the actual object itself, which is the bullet. I want to see the bullet itself. If it's a different bullet, outputting now. All right, fire. Okay. So why did I do this? Because I want to see which bullet it is. Because each one of these bullets is unique. See? So these are different bullets. But that's what I'm saying. I got to see that they're all different bullets. All IDs are different, right? That's important because this is the IDs are actually objects that are in the scene, right? That's what they are. That's why it's 12, 13, 14. So that's good. So that means they're different objects. But why do they have the same? Sorry? No. They have their position is all messed up. Value, right? What was that? The first spawn is okay, but once the second spawn, what is this bullet spawn? Is the bullet spawn changing? Spawn is now. So because it should be no, but that shouldn't be. No, I already checked that. Bullet spawn is the same as the bullet spawn plain dot bullet spawn. No. The other ones before, and I moved it around. Remember, you saw them all over the place. Otherwise, they'll all be on top of each other every single time. And that's not the case, right? So look, so reset is minus 1,000, right? Well, what's happening is when this check bounce happens, okay, so let's just take away the reset. So I don't reset to 1,000, and I'm not checking bounce. None of that's happening. No resetting. So this negative 1,000 crap isn't going to happen anymore because it doesn't exist. Okay, now let's try. Now where's the other one?
Yay.
There. So minus 534 and minus 3,775 for the second one. Okay. First one is minus 3,775. But they're different objects. It's like they're all setting to each other. Huh? It's not what I wanted. You're talking about in the play up here. A new objects.bullet, and I'm passing in a reference to the TextureAtlas, and then I'm adding in the bullet count. No, this is correct. That's why you're getting new bullets every time. So that's not the problem. And I'm setting the position of my bullet through my set position method. But okay, let's make this more raw. Okay, so x is equal to this dot underscore plane dot bullet spawn dot x, and so they're not using the set position method. Okay, just to see that that's not the case. Y and Y again. That's what I did last time. Okay, so this is what's happening, and the bullet counter 0. This bullet counter increases, which means it's accessing a different bullet, right? And this just keeps going, checking the bullets if it's not too crazy. So doing back, now it works.
Yay. Yay.
Yay!
Yay.
I like yay too.
Yay. Yay.
Hold on. Sorry, what?
Now it's passive by value because it's not what that is for. Someone is changing that.
Well, set position doesn't work. That's what it is. Set position is not working. It's doing something else. So what is it doing? Now I'm going to put these back. Resets and check bounds. I want them to go back to the negative position again, right?
Is the bonus spawn on point?
Yeah. So we're just not going to use this thing. I don't know why, but it doesn't work. So I'm not going to use that thing because we're going to simplify again. I'm simplifying.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Hold on. I haven't got to that point. I was supposed to do that today too.
Yay. Yay.
Okay, I went so long because I wanted to see what these are. Yeah, that's good. ID 52. ID 51. ID 49. Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. So, okay, so let's go over this one. We're almost done, guys. I apologize for running late. All right, so this is what's happening. So update my position. I check my bounds, and then they leave. And then if I'm, now I'm going to put that check back. So if this dot y is less than 0, or sorry, greater than 0, that's the only time you want to check this. Because otherwise you're checking too often, and that should relieve that problem.
Yay.
That's good. And now I'm going to go back to my play. We're almost done. I'll leave this the way it is. It's ugly, but it works. And I'll take this away, but I want to see the bullet. I want to put my counter back in here. So I want to see that it counts beyond and that my bullets are still working. Otherwise, that would be very bad. Somehow now afterwards, after 50, it stops working. Count to 50.
Yay.
I'm changing it. That's good. Okay. Hold on, guys. Hello. I know you guys are busy talking over there, but curious. Well, this is okay, right? Bullets fire, and they're individual bullets. Now we've solved that problem, right? I don't have anything to shoot at. I was supposed to do that today too, by the way, like a little plane, right? But we'll do that whenever we see each other again, or I'll do it on the video or something. We'll see how that goes. But here's the problem. I can only fire as fast as my button. The whole bullet hell thing, right? So how do I fire more than one bullet? Well, it's the kind of event that I've bound, right? I've bound a mouse down event. Mouse up. Mouse. The what? Always fire, constantly. Yeah. But I want to make it so that when I press my button, like a spray of bullets comes out, not just one. How do I do that? Well, if you notice, there's a bunch of other things on mouse. There's on mouse up, on mouse down, on mouse enter, on mouse leave, on mouse out, on mouse wheel. You know, there's not much to do here. It's not like you're pressing down a key. It's not like a key down event, right? Like I can't hold my mouse down. As I'm holding my mouse down, it doesn't do anything, right? That's not what I'm looking at, right? I could set a flag. That's one thing I could do. So it's when I'm pressing my mouse button down until it hears my mouse button up, I'm firing bullets forever, right? I press one time, it's just going to be like keep going, right? That's one thing I can do. Now remember, this is only temporary. I'm always supposed to do my mouse temporary, and I was going to use my controller later on. Controller is going to be different controls. It's going to be, I'm going to be able to hold my control down, and it's going to still generate signals, which is good, right? But mouse doesn't do that the same way with web. You press the mouse down one time, I can hold it down as much as I want. Mouse down is not going to generate more and more and more. Mouse on, mouse leave, on, mouse move. Yes, mouse up, different thing, mouse wheel, but these are all the events that there are. And just to exemplify this point, right? If I say mouse events web, right? So I want to see all the different mouse events, right? The web API for mouse events. It'll give you all the different ones from my clients, right? So these are all this is web API?
You open the specific event.
No, this is no good.
You open on the left events.
So yeah, they're all here anyway. Mouse down, mouse up, mouse leave, mouse out, mouse over, right? And the mouse down event, it says start a drag drop operation, right? That's the mouse down event, right? Start a text selection, start a scroll up, pan interaction with the middle mouse button if supported, right? That's what it does. Bubbles means whether the event normally bubbles up or not, right? All these different things that the mouse does. The button, which buttons are pressed, la 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 la. Okay, so now let's do your thing. Let's do mouse up event, right? So when I mouse up, what does it do? Yeah, but it's, so I click, and when I mouse away, right, then that means it disables it, right? I could, that's something I could do. Yeah, I could do that. But mouse down, this triggers bullet fire, right? Bullet fire is, it says, hey, where's my position? Wherever this is, keep doing it. But it's not like a key down event, just FYI. It's not like that. Key down and mouse down, totally different on web, right? It's a limitation, actually, because the web doesn't want you to keep pressing the mouse forever. There's nothing like that. It does that, right? You have to generate that event yourself. Not so on Unity or something like that. If you press Unity, they're actually listening for mouse events. But this Unity's native compiler, right? And not so on things. So for example, my little game that I made this morning with Unity, right, which is exactly like this game, but this is based with Unity, not the web, right? Same exact game, but done on a game engine. Let's see if it works now, by the way. Yeah, you get your plane. This is what I wanted to generate for you guys, right? And if I hold it down, it'll keep going forever, right? Can't do that. You can't do that with this. With this, it's not support, right? Now, how do I make a, yes?
One mouse down and generates a flag. There is an update there, so you can always call it.
Yeah, but how do you detect that the mouse is still down? You're waiting for the mouse up event.
Yeah.
So when the mouse up event is when you lift the mouse, you have both events. You have mouse up and mouse down, right? And when the mouse up event is going, you're firing. I'm firing, right? As long as until my mouse up event triggers, right? So just putting it out there, like, you know, it's different than, you know, than you expect. Like you expect it to hold, when you hold the button down, it keeps triggering. Not so when it comes to this other stuff. All right, so things that are missing from this one. And I obviously didn't get done as much as I wanted to, and of course on the web and some different discussions. Well, good discussions, and my fault. I should have just said no and kept going. But let's talk about what we did so far today. So we did add in, we changed the Sprite class. That's a big change. That took up an hour, right? It's changing from the bitmap class to the Sprite class. I recommend it because in the future, I'm going to make my plane have some animations. I'm going to do some stuff, and it's built in. It's built in to CreateJS. Like you don't have to work hard to do this, right? Especially when you're doing frame-based animation. If someone's doing some kind of, you want a glowing tank, all that kind of stuff, or some kind of glowy effect or whatever that happens every frame, you want to use some kind of animation effect. And you can do it on your own. You can always use kind of like almost like an animation frame. But why? It's already built in. Updates there, animation works. You can switch between animations, and it's built into CreateJS. You could do it by yourself, though. But so it's built in. So that's why I go for that. Like, in my other game, if you notice, the little propeller moves on the plane. Well, that's because it's an animation effect, right? You can have the same effect here with this thing, you know, CreateJS. It's the same, and that's why I moved to Sprites. That took an hour, and then afterwards it was engaging the bullet, making the bullet work, and we troubleshooted the bullet for the remainder of the time. That took way longer than I thought, and normally it doesn't take that long because it's like bullet, make a bullet fire. You know, I move it across, you spawn it at a certain point and everything else. Good thing is this, we've solved one problem but created others. The positive thing is each of the bullets has its own space in the display list. So they're all going underneath the clouds, if you noticed, right? They're not going above the clouds. That's a good thing, right? On the downside, they're all above the plane. So for now, that's okay. But what happens when another plane is firing bullets at our plane? That means they're also going to be climbing up like this, right? So they're going to come up. So my plane is lower than the other plane. It doesn't matter that relatively it's flat anyway. But just in case it misses, which might happen because of the tunneling effect of bullets, objects moving very fast, and you're detecting the difference in this distance between one object and the other. Small object, only 9 pixels, right? And a big object, like a bigger object like a plane, and lots of fast movement might go right through, right? And if that happens, you see the bullet pass over top, right? Which you don't want. So again, lots of other things to take care of. It's a topic of another day. I want to end off by saying this, that remember next week, even though I may or may not be here, Saturday is when your first playable is due. I will put up a Dropbox with that information. You need to have it live. So it needs to be live somewhere. It needs to be live either on GitHub pages or it needs to be live on your own website somewhere. It needs to be live and available. So please make sure that you do that and you submit properly. Okay? Any other questions before we stop for the day? Long recording. I apologize. Right? It's supposed to be more than this. All right. Take care. And
For the first playable, do we have to make 3 scenes as well?
no.
Or just-
All I'm looking at, well, you have 3 scenes are built in, right? I've given you the 3 scenes, but all you need is like some kind of placeholder start scene, a placeholder end scene, and the middle scene is just your one level, right? So you can use my start and end scenes, they're just blank, right? And the middle scene is the scene that you want. Don't break the state machine because that's a lot of work to put it back. That's all I'm saying. All right, but it could be like literally be blank. Those things just have a start and then or a restart button. That's it. Okay. Yeah.
For the first playable assets, can we use test assets, something else?
Yeah, you can use other assets. It doesn't have to be the final assets. Like for example, it doesn't have to animate. The first playable just has to have, placeholder assets that represent, what you're doing. That's okay. Even if their assets aren't your final assets, it's okay, right? Yeah.
Even your assets, it's like the button.
Yes. Because again, it's just your first playable. I don't care about those things. The only thing I care about is your main scene. Did you show your mechanic? If you show your mechanic, I'm good. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking for movement. I'm looking for you guys making something go. It doesn't have to have sounds. Sounds are not required. Collisions have to be there. Some kind of, I can see that something's happening. Like, so when the player collides with a bullet or bullets or with other things, right? Then we're good to go, right? But if, don't make it too crazy. It doesn't have to be the final version. Remember, you have 2 more releases this semester. Lots of time. I just want to make sure this one works. And we won't have a presentation this time. We'll have a presentation when we're together again. Okay? Guys, thank you so much for sticking around. I know I went over. We'll see each other soon.